Umazi, a witness in the murder case of Farida Kadzo, a 17-year-old girl who was stabbed to death in the neck on June 6th this year, has said Farida's body had several injuries. Farida was stabbed just a few meters from her home in Kijipwa, Kilifi County at around 8 p.m. and died a few minutes later. Giving evidence before Mombasa Magistrate Wendy Kagendo, Umazi said Farida's throat was slit, identifying the knife used to harm her. According to Umazi, the knife was used by Lewis Kazungu, a 22-year-old man who is the main suspect in the murder. The trial is set to continue today, with the prosecution scheduled to present another witness. The International Justice Mission is closely following the murder case of Farida, who, despite being 17 years old, was also the mother of a 9-month-old baby. And finally, the Kenya Women Parliamentary Association has called for the abolition of death penalty for women, arguing that systematic inequities and gender-based vulnerabilities make capital punishment harsh on female offenders. During a roundtable with the ICJ, the association said many women facing death sentences have histories of domestic abuse and social marginalization that the legal system often fails to consider. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state of, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
SRC's mandate is constitutional. It's not an advice. It's actually something you must do.
Like now, you abandon, of course, the narrative of wheelbarrow, Mutomjengo, Mamamboga, and all those, that rosy narrative.
Your expenditure is 3.3 trillion, and you're collecting only 2.5. Out of that 2.5, you're spending 1.8 trillion to service loans and so forth.
That the CDF kit, it's in itself a symptom of corruption.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us
to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu waulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He is himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament, so...
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said...
The government.
Yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You have land, Dennis. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around. Why? Tell me what is first of all, what's the problem? Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, good morning. No.
Imekata.
Hapana.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. You?
I'm fine, thank you. Yes.
Yo.
You know what?
It's a Wednesday, hump day.
Yes, it is. It's hump day, and I've not had my coffee, and but
Cine life.
Cine life. We'll survive.
Exactly.
Hey, it's Wednesday. There was a drizzle. Yesterday it was raining when the sun was shining, and you know how they say when it rains, when the sun is shining, a hippo is giving birth on the Serengeti.
Well, you guys will have an explanation for everything. Hippos give birth every day. But this one has to be just on the Serengeti.
Yeah, it's very specifically on the Serengeti. I don't know if look, it's just...
So that means it rains this side because we are viewing it from Masai Mara, right?
What's
the Serengeti is just across. Yeah. Okay. But one would assume that hippo is just on the river.
No,
Mara
it's just
river.
it's an event of circumstance. Even the
Hii explanation naingi nimekataa.
Umekataa? Lakini uko aje leo asubuhi?
Leo niko fresh.
Kabisa? Okay.
Kabisa? No, niko fresh.
Uko fresh lakini
kabisa hapo
hajafika kabisa.
Okay.
Wacha
niko fresh.
Wacha nikwambie kitu.
Thank God niambia.
Today is the 26th of October.
Please repeat.
EVE. Today is the what?
26th
of November, not even October. Did I say October?
Yo.
You would think it was the 26th of October.
So that means in a month's time
it'll be Boxing Day.
Boxing Day.
Yeah, na bado uko hapa.
Na bado niko hapa. Lakini still ni 26th of November.
Hey. October ended 26 days ago. Sijui kama unanielewa.
In short, we are 26 days into November.
Bas. Nasema tu. Do with that information what you
would like.
Okay. Because that's the
Mambo.
You know. Okay, sawa. Good morning, everybody. Karibu sana. EVE has wrapped herself in red, but under that she's wearing white. I don't know if there's the agenda for the week is to show us that you're pure or what. I don't know.
But today there are some flowers as well. So.
Oh, you noticed? Hey, somebody who notices details.
Yeah, she looked like an aristocrat. I think it was retro for days, but looks really beautiful.
Sindio? Meambiwa hiyo abi. Oh. EVE said it's white on the outside, black on the inside. Well, are you trying to tell us something? But she's fine. I'm telling you, in all ways.
It's black on there?
She's white outside, black on the inside.
So the innerwear is black?
So I'm not even confused. No, the inside the jacket, Jameni.
Oh, okay. So...
So even Joyline is around somewhere doing things. Christina amekuja leo. Everybody's here and getting into it this morning. Karibuni sana, everybody.
You're not mentioning that Christina has a new gadget.
Christine, sasa, she was the victim of circumstance in a public service vehicle. But then, the gods have smiled and she was able to acquire herself another gadget. So, the world is at peace once again.
Yeah, she can take photos in HD. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Then I was watching these tributes yesterday, and then the song just came back into my head. It's been a while since we sang a song, but the song has been playing for a while, hasn't it? Down the way where the nights are gay and the sun shines daily on the mountain top. I took a trip on a sailing trip, and when I reached Jamaica, I made a stop. But I'm sad to say I'm on my way. Won't be back for many a day. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a little girl in Kingston Town. Yeah, Harry Belafonte.
Yeah.
In the good company of folks like Jimmy Cliff, who unfortunately passed the day before yesterday, so that news was tough. But music transcends time. And we remember that, and we remember those great singers, and of course those who propelled that music into our time. And it's always great, of course, Raila Odinga. And it's just sad to see that his sister passed on yesterday. It was a tough blow to see that, and my goodness, how much can you take at once? But may she rest in peace, and may those who remain to remember her be comforted. And everybody who's going through a tough moment today, we just want to encourage you. You know what? You've lived through the worst of it. You can make it through today.
True.
So wake up today as you get into it with a little bit of hope that you can actually do better, you can be better, and it will be better. That it ain't over till the fat lady sings, as they say. So if you're still here today, that means you have another chance to take a stab at it. So let's do it. And let's do it with our full chest and all feathers, wrapped up and getting it. And that's why we'll come up and every day have these conversations as we need to. So you wake up feeling a certain type of way this morning, let me encourage you that you will end the day and it will end in praise. Sawa. That's it. And we'll get into conversations this morning as we do. Our audience on KTN, good morning to you. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Karibuni sana and welcome. This is the Situation Room. Dennis Aseto and Okoh with you this morning as we get into this Wednesday. It's a day before the mini polls, and we know that folks are already going crazy and doing all kinds of things, but other things still happening in our nation, in Kenya, and we're just looking at some of those conversations that we'll have and how we'll kick it off. Lawyer and Safina Party Deputy Party Leader is Willis Otieno. He'll join us at 7 o'clock for a conversation around rethinking the National Tallying Center. It is already coming. The chairperson of the IEBC is the returning officer for the presidential election.
Yes.
We know this. That is his job.
Yes.
We also know that there are questions about if the polling station, if the results are announced and final, according to the Minor Kiai case, and it was then, accepted and then ruled on by court, that at the polling center is where results are final, then why do you need a national tallying center? We'll have that conversation. It's a constitutional battle. Willis Otieno joins us at 7. Mohammed Ado, former journalist, a colleague of ours as well. I guess a journal is always a journal. So journalist and member of parliament for Wajir South is Mohammed Ado. He joins us and we're asking questions and having a conversation about whether we're ready for the polls, assessing IEBC state of preparedness. Remember, parliament are the ones who essentially gave this current IEBC wings to fly, as they normally do with, all bodies that will then be vetted and then passed through for assent by the executive. So we'll have this conversation about whether we're actually ready. And we're going into it, legs first, head first, whichever way, but we're in the water, folks. So we'll have that conversation at 8 o'clock. And then Kenya-US trade ties is a conversation that we will be having with Ryan Hollowell, who is a commercial counselor at the US Embassy, Kenya. We'll have that conversation today. What exactly is going on? Where are we? JD Vance coming, not coming, coming again, not coming? Are we having conversations? Where exactly are we going? And where is the US going with Kenya? Let's talk. We'll have those conversations today. Thank you so much for being in the room today as we get into it. And we will do that. Sasa, tall.
Yes. Hey, yo.
You never expected that, did you?
Umenipeleka mbali, but anyway. Yes. Unataka proverb?
Yeah.
Today we are in the land of Mandinka, Senegal.
Right.
And the Mandinka proverb here talks about the enemy within. And if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot do any harm.
That's taken me quite.
Yeah.
If you have come to terms with how it is, we've had this conversation.
Yes.
Inside, I have all the chips are down. We've discussed it and talked about it. I know what my weaknesses, I'm working on them. I know my strengths, I'm using them. There is nothing you will say or do that will bring me any lower than I have already taken myself. And there's nothing that you will say or do that will preclude or obstruct me from taking myself as high as I can. So I've dealt with that enemy inside. So you who is outside trying to say, is trying to do, it's okay. Can continue, but it's not going to affect me either way. I think this is one of self-reflection, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of the person within you that you can actually use to scale heights.
Yeah.
That you can come above all those challenges and those struggles. That the person outside who may try to bring you down, my friend, if I've brought myself down, we have had a conversation at the basement, and the basement has no ground floor. This is it. We're at ground zero. We're already there. There's nothing you can do that will bring me any lower than I've already taken myself. So there's no. We're at the bottom floor.
Exactly.
We're going up.
Yeah.
Also speaks about, there's a story that is told about the Mau Mau during the fight, and there is this one individual who was close to one Dedan Kimathi, and it is told on how he was behind Dedan Kimathi being captured, despite the fact that they were very close with the man. So you look at how the enemy within shared that critical information that ended up Dedan Kimathi being captured, So that goes to speak in terms of most of the time when you look at the problems that do exist or troubles that people experience on a daily basis. If you just pause and look at the person you talked to, the person you shared with the most intimate aspects of your life, perhaps they're using that information against you. So,
yeah.
So goes to speak in terms of who is this person that you're sharing critical information with, and do you trust them?
My goodness. Okay.
And if there are, if you look at there is problems that you're going through, do you know where to start from to solve it?
To solve them. What? Heavy stuff this morning.
Heavy.
Ooh-wee.
Madinka people.
I'm telling you, these guys. All right. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of self-reflection going on this morning, isn't it? And as you get into the room today, let us know where you're tuned in from and tell us your name. And the folks who, tune in every day, many folks who don't comment here. So this is not just the size of it, but the folks that do. Send us a message and say hello. We always recognize you and we thank you for coming in every morning. So watch it to Salimiana. Sindio. Peter Kiaria is tuned in this morning from Mombasa. Knowledge will give you power, but character earns respect. Indeed. You're tuning in from Mombasa, so very, very good morning to you. Robert Tiboga also tuning in from Mombasa. Robert Minor. Okay, how many Roberts in a row? Good morning to you. Jeffrey says good morning. Greetings from Doha is Robert Minor. Another. Okay, that's another. Okay. He said Daniel tuned in this morning. Team Spice says good morning. Tibbs Moke says good morning, Spice FM team. Karibu Sana. Jeffrey is in Hungary. All right. Ramtula Omar says, good morning. Tune in from Preston, UK. ICC loading for Suluhu. Suluhu. Is that what the conversation is? Into what 5 languages do you speak? Oh, right. You asked me that, didn't you? Okay, well, here we go. Is English compared? Is one of them?
So English?
So I speak Igbo, I speak Hausa, I speak a bit of Yoruba, I speak French, of course, and Spanish, and then Kiswahili. So that's 6.
6.
Isn't it? And I'm learning right now. I'm learning Arabic. I'm actually doing Arabic lessons. If you tell me, have you not read enough books? No, I'm actually doing Arabic lessons right now.
And to learn Portuguese.
I know why you want to learn Portuguese. This guy, before you went to Belém, you did not want to learn Portuguese.
Let me tell you.
Now that you've gone and seen and come back, you said, this language I must learn.
I was staying in an apartment 454, and opposite there was this lady called Caterina.
Of course.
Caterina, there is this Brazilian dish called pastel. So pastel is it's like, okay, it's just pasta with a lot of minced meat inside and this Brazilian sauce. So every evening I would pass by Caterina's shop to just have pastel. You guys.
So now we must know how to communicate with Caterina and her pastel.
Because you see also Caterina doesn't care that you don't that you don't speak Portuguese. So she'd just whip her phone. Please write here.
If you want my pastel, you have to speak the Portuguese.
Google will do that thing.
Okay, I'm sorry, Evie.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we understand. Don't worry. It's good because it's related to Spanish, one of the romantic languages. Interestingly enough, and romantic in this case is not for love. It's the era that we speak of where this language came from. Sawa.
Yeah.
All of them, of course, with their base roots Latin. So you'll be okay. Don't worry. We egg you on. Tibbs Muge says, good morning, tuned in. So, Rahim Tula, did I answer your question? There it is. Jimmy Munothi says, good morning and good day. George Adimo tuned in from Rongo. Hello, Princess Ndu and Mr. Aseto. Good morning. It was interesting and Ndindi the other day, yesterday at Parliament, when common sense and duty are at play, Parliament is great to follow. Ooh, okay. Leo, I'm getting into it. Will Ethiopia, as the presumed genesis of Africa, split, ignite? Okay, I'm not understanding. Maybe use some commas here so we can get what you're saying. Helen Nyoti says, I love SpiceFM Situation Room. We love you, Helen. Kabisa. Thank you for tuning in every morning. Thank you. And we'll just always try to do right in these conversations that we have. Linda Gola says, bonjour, mes amis. Bonjour, mon ami. How are you doing? Boaz Naliana says, good morning, tuned in from Keitale. And David Mangara is tuned in this morning. Glad to be here. Karibu Sana. Catherine Nyambura, tuned in. Amazing people. Princess Ndu and Dennis Aseto. Salimia Dennis Okari Tutam Salimia. In fact, we're calling him today. Keep shining, Asante Sana. And thank you for helping us shine. My prince, good morning. Trump has ordered vetting of all Kenyans living in the US. You and your swali tutauliza bros. Akikuja up 9 o'clock. We failed to do it. US will do it for us. It's a question that we'll have to ask.
Yeah, true.
And so that is my prince, we have to be here at 9 o'clock, so we can ask exactly what is going on with this vetting. Good morning, SpiceFM. Tuned in from Chile, Mombasa is Joseph Okondo. Pan-African Kenyan is tuned in from Nairobi. And Nyakundi Emmanuel says, good morning, Team Spice. Things are boiling nicely. Sindio, the simmer is simmering.
Simmer.
Okay. Good morning, watching from Portland, Oregon. All dreams are valid, says Mashari and Jeru. But this of Kenya being first world with this kind of leadership is not a dream but a nightmare. Okay. So I went back to my international relations notes at some point yesterday in part of the studying that I'm doing. We shouldn't actually be saying first world, second world, third world, because those terminologies came from an era whereby the capturing of the world by those who then became new colonies after leaving England is how they described it as the first world, a cabal of countries. Yeah. We should be talking about developing and developed.
Yes.
And according to even United Nations conversations that were had earlier, we're talking about developing and developed. Nobody's first, second, and third here.
Yeah.
So we should actually move from that conversation. Excuse me, hello? Government? Okay.
Yes.
Please pick my call. SLB says, good morning, guys. We are inside paying attention. Kabisa. Keep on encouraging us as you're doing a good job. You're spicing people in this bitter life. Have a good day. Asante Sana. Abdullah Muhammad says, good morning. Rahim Tula says, you like Ndu's coat. It's okay, sour.
It's a blaso.
Oh, thanks. Ayenda says, good morning. You have been spiced, kabisa. Today, ambia askari kazi ya ni utumishi kwa wote. Nini hiyo?
Utumishi kwa wote. Service to all.
Oh, right. Okay. Sawa. Tunechi, you have to tell us where you're from. Maybe you pronounce your name differently, but in my language, I have decided that you are from, Southern Delta states.
Yeah.
So you must tell me if it's not the case.
I was watching something the other day on the net, and there's this lady in the UK was asked, "What's your name?" I'm Lola. Then the guy asked, "Are you Nigerian?"
Lola
yes.
Mide.
Lola, your name is Lola, not Lola. Your name be Lola, not Lola.
Which one?
Lola.
Which one? Lola.
Which one? Lola.
I love it. Hey. Ramtula Aura says, we lost a Bollywood actor, Dharmendra, on Monday. As an Asian Kenyan, many of us have lost an icon. Well, may he rest in peace. I mean, obviously, we know that music and culture and drama is a carry-on of nations. So, Jeffrey says, good morning, love the song and the interpretation of it, isn't it? Bwangi Juma student this morning, how are you all this blessed Wednesday? Mind you, it's a rehearsal for Fire, See Fire. Mimi ni fire, see fire. Mimi see fire. Mimi ni mama.
Kumaliza wewe. Nasikia bezi yangu. Yo, don't joke.
God will punish us.
Just repeat that again.
Nini.
Mimi noma sina. Noma.
Mimi si fire.
Fire.
Mimi si fire, si fire.
Fire.
Okay. Sorry. Dr. Venvik is tuned in. We see you. Quite a chilly morning in Doha. Spiced up morning would really come through. We're bringing it, Kimmy. Good morning. Don Carter says Ruto is the enemy within. Why?
Yo. It was just a proverb from Senegal.
Linda Gola is saying, it is not me. Linda is saying, Dennis must have met a girl. Look at his face. All mushy. Able to ambia ukweli sahi.
I met many girls in Brazil.
Linda, wait, don't worry. Linda, see me in the back. I'll talk to you later. Sawa. Good morning.
Meeting.
Sawa.
Just met.
Sawa. Yeah. Guka says, good morning. Tune in Team Spice and Kenyans. Let's purpose to build good culture. That's how to build future. That's indeed listening from Githongore, Kabisa. Emily, good morning to you. And Izegi says, good morning, Spice team. Enjoying the conversation. Asante Sana. Good to see you guys. Thomas Osore says, good morning to you and Karibu Sana. Washington, Okechi, another one which I've decided, Okechi is God's time. Good morning, Spice. Tuned in from Massachusetts in Cambridge. Pan-African Kenyan says, Linda Golo, Aseto had to leave a little girl in Belém Town. He had to leave a little girl in Belém Town. Robert Miner, don't worry, we're here. This part of the show, Usijali. Mtuflani, today you woke up on time. See fire, kabisa. Eric War says, good morning. Sheila Masaba, we see you. Good morning, Tim Sarah. Mukona joke sana. We are very sorry. We are not doing that again. Aki nyinyi, you know man a fire combined. Good morning. Timothy, Wamuvende, akiwasikia. Hey, sorry. We are behaving ourselves.
Yes.
From now henceforthly. Let's take a look into the dailies and what is making the headlines in today's paper. We'll start with Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. In front is pictures of Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and Cabinet Secretary for Diaspora Affairs, Foreign Affairs, and Musalia Mudavadi and a number of others. The headline is, for the politicians Ruto has quietly tasked with securing Mount Kenya, Western and the Pastoral Belt, tomorrow's polls are unforgiving. Victory strengthens their bargaining power heading into cabinet reshuffles, party realignments and coalition talks. Defeat, however, will expose them as liabilities. Leaders who can't shift votes, can't whip local loyalties, and can't deliver when it matters. In a government that measures value in raw numbers, failing at home is political suicide. Of course, there is the Deputy President and also Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. Moses Wetangula is the National Assembly Speaker. Amason Kingi is the Senate Assembly Speaker. And Hassan Ali Joho, CS Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. So it's a question of, it's not just a mini poll, it's not just a by-election, but it's also then what do you do for government and how are you able to move this? It is political, whether we want to imagine that the makeup of government is not. Anywhere in the world, the makeup of government is a political affair. How you do it within working systems is a totally different story. And should you be campaigning at this point? Probably not.
You see, if you look at these mini polls, we have candidates who are running for these offices. One would assume it is their job to go sell their agenda and to convince the electorate to give them their votes, not cabinet secretaries. And the president should not even care on who will be voted in, because at the end of the day, he is supposed to work with each and every single Kenyan, whether in government or outside.
Indeed. It's true. Another blow to the Odinga family as Raila's youngest sister passes away. A tough one to see. She's also served in different capacities. And may she rest in peace. And then to have this less than a month, or just a little bit over a month that this has happened is tough. 10 candidates battle Kasipul by-election. See, did you know that there were 10 candidates in the Kasipul by-election? There are 10. A girl stranded in India after state health cover ends. It is not my intention to annoy you this morning. This is a story in the Standard. The story of Fiona Wajiko requires urgent third kidney transplant. It costs 6.5 million shillings, and she is currently outside the country Of course, seeking assistance, health cover run out, can't sort that out. Godfathers hold their breath as mini polls gambles comes to a head. Tomorrow is going to be the day. Bare knuckle fights as Ruto allies rivals vie for poll prize. Push to strip IEBC powers to retally presidential vote gains momentum. Remember that this is a push and it's a petition that's coming in from the senator for Busia County, which is Okoh Umtata. And it's to say, you know what? You don't have to come and count again. We said polling station, polling center, returning officer, it's final. This business of then coming back and counting again and then give us results, and people sleep as though it's a campfire sleepover in Bomas. Well, I don't. Where? There's no Bomas anymore. So now, Twenda Wapi? At wherever the place will be. In fact, maybe this is good because they're saying you actually don't need to do that. You can call the election at the polling center.
Polling center, yeah.
So, half-baked medics, sham training exposed in study. Ooh. See, these guys just give us a moment. We have not finished one. We are going to another. A survey by the HPOA has revealed commercialized medical courses in Kenya compromises patient safety. We'll look at that story later. Just, cool your temper just a little bit. So some of the headlines in the Standard today. Sakaja defends city funds shift to city and bank. Senators query the move. We know that Senate was hot over the couple of days, and he was in before the Senate committee yesterday answering a couple of questions in terms of why he had to move it. Why did they move it? Whether they were satisfied or not, a whole different story. All right, sir.
Let's go to the Daily Nation. IEBC faces big test in mini polls now. Make or break, the Electoral Commission says it is all set to deliver credible by-elections tomorrow, which many Kenyans will be watching with an eye on 2027. Will new IEBC chairperson Erastus Ethekon and his team steer the hotly contested polls in a free, fair and transparent manner? Will the conduct restore confidence in the commission is the question. And again, the sad story of Raila's sister dies in city, plunging the family into mourning again. A report, 6 in 10 school children struggle with reading and maths.
Say that again, please.
6 in 10 school children struggle with reading and maths. Are you surprised?
Do you remember the conversation that we had yesterday? Even the children that you're teaching, right? 60% of school children, according to this report, and of course we want to know where the report is from, maths, basic, reading, basic. Reading is tied directly to comprehension. It's basic. And we are saying that as you people are fighting unions against unions, as you people are refusing to send capitation, as you're doing all of this, even what you're delivering to these learners is half-baked. Not even half-baked. It's 40% baked.
Yeah. And you see, at the end of the day, when we have all these fights and all these conversations yesterday on the show, we said the person who's center and critical and the biggest shareholders are the students. Are we focused on how we are making their lives better, or are we just fighting on which union is bigger than the other?
I can read that. Okay, sorry.
So, page 10 of this paper says, Thuge warns of debt distress amid ambitious borrowing. Reduce appetite for loans, urges CBK boss.
Who is he telling?
The person who's borrowing.
Okay.
The government of Kenya.
All right.
Treasury.
Okay. So.
Thuge warns of debt distress amid ambitious borrowing, as if we're already not in debt distress.
Oi.
Ousted by MCAs for a third time, Nyeri's fate lies in Senate again. That is on page 7. And ruling against military for HIV discrimination upheld. The Kenya Defence Forces has suffered a legal setback after the High Court upheld a ruling that found it guilty of discriminating against a recruit based on his HIV status and conducting an unauthorized test without proper counselling. There are procedures that have to be followed regardless of who you are. Junior school teachers lobby now threatens to quit KUPPET. So there's
after yesterday.
Jana was Kujesta.
Who are Coupet also.
Yeah. It's a crash program for varsity students after strike. You remember that strike that lasted over 40 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now it is a crash program because they have to finish their syllabus in time. This is what happens when people refuse not to sit down and agree.
Yeah.
IEBC faces credibility test in mini polls, and state dishes out diplomatic posts to UDA nomination losers in Malava. Let me repeat that again. State dishes out diplomatic posts to UDA nomination losers in Malava. You went to a nomination.
Yes, please.
Right? One of you will emerge as the winner. But just because you lost, shika your diplomatic post for losing.
It's like you're trying to annoy me.
I know. I'm just telling you the truth, how things are. Broad-based blues wrangles test strength of Ruto-Raila deal. Over the weekend, we heard what Member of Parliament Kaluma said about broad-based government and his frustrations on how members of broad-based government were campaigning against their candidate.
Yeah.
President. Are things still rosy in broad-based?
No.
No? Okay. Did we see that coming?
Yes.
Yes? Are we surprised?
No.
No. 5 years on, family relieves horror as killer father is jailed.
Wow.
Tears, relief, and overwhelming emotion swept through a family in Bomet after a man who burned his wife to death using petrol during a domestic dispute was convicted and sentenced to 40 years in prison. One would say he deserves it. Sheesh. Biashara.
Excuse me. Ruto Gachagua mini elections battle shifts to vote protection. That is what we see on the front page of the Star. Hustler Fund has built credit footprints for 27 million Kenyans. Did you know that? And of course, there is the story of how Raila saved his sister Beryl from, abusive MP. The chair of the IEBC, Erastus Ethicon, tells Kenyans there's no room for misconduct at the IEBC, so don't worry, everything is going to be okay. And this inquest or this trial into the case of rally driver who passed on, Maxine Mahome yesterday put up a spirited fight against charges of killing her boyfriend, rally driver Asad Khan. And so that, of course, continues. That case still going on. By-election battle, of course, everything still into the by-election. Borrowing from Paul to pay Peter, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. How Treasury spent 2.7 trillion debt. And, it's coming in from Nancy Gadhungu's office to find out exactly what is going on with that. All right, that's what it looks like in the Star. And then just looking into some stories into detail this morning. You want to go with one or shall I?
You go first.
All right. So, there is this particular story that might be this one. Half-baked medics, sham training exposed in study. The midwife helping your wife to deliver, the lab technician testing your samples in hospital, or the caregiver looking after your aging parent may have trained at a college where classes run for just 2 months.
2 months.
Yes, 8 weeks. These are findings of a survey by the Health Professionals Oversight Authority. They're mandated to do this, which uncovered colleges employing tutors with the same qualifications as their students and admitting learners with widely inconsistent grades for identical courses. The revelations emerged yesterday during a joint meeting of the Health and Education Committees in the National Assembly, which brought together private health training colleges and academic regulators. The authority told MPs that preliminary findings from 152 institutions assessed showed that about 30 were not registered at all to offer medical training. Some institutions also did not provide students with supervised clinical practice before graduation. In other cases, training periods were inconsistent with stipulated requirements, with some offering diploma qualifications after as little as 2 months training. Jackson Kioko, the HPOA, I'm going to call it that, chief executive, warned that these findings undermine competence and compromise patient safety. Well, duh. When you go on the ground, you find some things are completely different. Some institutions offer the same diploma in 2 months, while others take 3 years. Entry grades vary from D+ to D-, and many applicants do not even know the real requirements. Bora umelipa, we've applied, and after 2 months we give you them. You say you can trot off and go and practice. And then you want to tell me that you see this base that we're looking at here. These are the kind of things that happen.
Yeah.
And then you want to tell me that developed world, here we come. These are the things that did we look at the micro indicators of what gets you to becoming developed before we say that we are well on course towards being developed? No, this is it right here. The National Assembly was in a state of shock yesterday because you're telling them essentially that a diploma course, which would ordinarily in a recognized institution take 3 years, because you're essentially giving this person powers to practice medical training. In 3 years, you're going to give it to somebody in 2 months. Some people are not regulated, and they come with a degree, a diploma, a certificate, not just the paper, but you're giving them the license to go and practice. We have a lot of work to do to get to that place. And these are the things that are allowed for because of money. You know, this thing was profound, whether you're religious or not.
Yeah.
That the love of money is the root of all evil.
True.
That you want something so badly that you're going to do anything to get it. This is it. That it compromises life at the end of the day. And then you wonder, somebody shows up with some crazy illness or some botched whatever. What do you expect? What do you expect?
You know, the saddest part, Ndu, is... You see, these institutions you're talking about do exist in our communities. And you'll be surprised that people know of what it is that is happening. That even when these reports is coming in, these are stories that have been there for a very long time. The parents who paid for school fees and they've seen their children get these diplomas after 2 months. Yet we know there is nowhere in this country where a diploma is less than 3 years. That is stipulated. It is there and everyone knows. You would be surprised that there is a member of parliament who gave out bursaries to these children, to these Kenyans, and graduated after 2 months, and they never said nothing. So if you just look at the entire ecosystem of how it is all messed up, it starts from the community level where we as a people have allowed this mess to continue. Members of parliament have gone further to give out these bursaries without just taking the extra step to find out this institution that I'm paying for, is it registered? The courses they are offering, are they as stipulated by the law? Or am I just giving out bursaries for the sake of giving it out because I want political mileage?
Yep.
If we all just paused for a moment and asked these difficult questions, we would be at a better place as a country. It is collective responsibility.
It is. It is. But I just feel that there are too many moving and unmoving parts. There are too many parts that are not coming together, and it gives me a lot of anxiety just thinking about it. And that's why I really agree with, excuse me, just going through some of the when we talk about an economy, we talk about things that we must do to get from point A to point B. And it sounds really basic, but Abraham Rugo, who is an economist, said, you know what needs to happen is that the different sectors of this society, this country that is comes needs to actually do breakaway sessions.
True.
You know how you go for a conference and then they say you go to Jambo room, you go to Rhino room, that's what needs to happen. It needs to be sorted from the bottom up. It needs to, you cannot tell me that you'll be developed at this stage. You tell me, how do you have universal health coverage if you're looking at a percentage of your health facilities that are giving away? I don't know, man. I don't even know how to say it and still make sense. How do you deliver something when your ingredients are not what they need to be? You cannot get there. And to me, it's very basic. And these are the things that you need to be working on. Where have you ever seen that a cake starts with the icing on top?
Oh, yeah. And you just look at these institutions that you're talking about. They were set up. They were registered. There is a body that ought to go and do, what do you call it? Investigations, or always just visit to find out if they're offering that which they said they are doing. Where have these people been?
I don't
The person
know.
who registered these things, ako wapi, and what are we doing about it? Because fine, we have a report. But remember, this report is being tabled after how long? How many people have suffered in the hands of individuals who are not qualified to practice in the medical field?
Exactly.
You know, how many Kenyans have we lost? We're talking as if it's just a report. But when you just pause to look at it, people have died. People have suffered.
People have walked away with botched procedures and will never be able to operate normally again.
People's lives have changed forever because of such things that we keep doing.
And we can't run away from the possibility that these would be as a result of this very thing that we're seeing. And it wasn't just some run-of-the-mill report. It's folks who have been mandated to find out exactly what's going on and then report to Parliament. And this is what we see. But the more painful thing for me is that you will find that this report, having been then brought before Parliament, it was discussed. What happens next?
Thank you. What happens next?
Do these institutions get shut down? Is there due diligence? Are they interrogated? Are the people who then got these certificates, are those things recalled and retracted and then you're told you can't practice anymore, but you must go back to school? Does that happen? Or do we just have a report, we're sensational about it on a Tuesday afternoon and then we come and make a noise about it on Wednesday morning and then we're done? What happens?
Do we even go further to just look at these institutions? Fine. These are the students who are affected, but these students reported to a certain institution. How many patients have gone into their hands? Do we have a report of how these patients are so that we have a complete overview of what exactly we're dealing with? You know, because it is more than just, it is an institution that was never registered.
No, it's more than
that. There are individuals who have been treated in one way or the other by these individuals. But even while at that, still in matters education, because remember these institutions that were not registered, but was in education.
Yes.
But there is concern because 6 in 10 children in low to middle income countries are unable to read simple sentence or solve basic mathematical problems. Alarmingly, 2/3 of these are currently in school. Now, the findings are contained in a new report by the People's Action for Learning Network that measured learning outcomes among 89,870 children aged 5 to 16 years across 12 countries. The results raise major concerns about the quality of education in many low-middle income countries, revealing that school attendance alone is not guaranteeing real learning. The report shows that Kenya leads its East African peers in achieving minimum proficiency levels in mathematics and reading, despite ongoing challenges such as teacher shortages and limited learning materials. MPLR International benchmarks defining what a child should know by the end of lower primary. They include basic reading, comprehension, and foundational numeracy skills such as working with whole numbers up to 100 and solving simple problems. However, even among the children that reach grade 9, not all can read with comprehension and do basic math, meaning that a huge chunk of them still do not meet these basic standards. According to the report, 43% of 10-year-olds in Kenya meet the MPL benchmark, compared to 33% in Tanzania and 4% in Uganda. Kenya's relatively strong performance indicates progress in foundational learning, although the country still trails behind higher performing nations such as Mexico, Nicaragua, and Pakistan.
To read a basic sentence, like like even when the best 2 teams in Europe right now, according to the Champions League table, stand for after 4 match days, Arsenal and Bayern Munich. So we are saying that a child in which grade?
Grade 9.
A child in grade 9. So that is a child who's going essentially into senior secondary school in January, is unable to read a basic sentence. Okay. Now, I would be very interested to know what are the factors that contribute to that state. Is it a combination of factors? Are we looking at school atmosphere? Are we looking at the learning methodology being used? Are we looking at the attention of teachers? Do teachers then know? Because I struggle to imagine that a teacher in a class that has 110 students is not able to pay attention to each and every one of these students to ensure that they are learning, and not just reading and writing, but actually comprehending. Because for you to be able to read a sentence, there's an element of comprehension that has come into place. So I think there is a flurry of issues around here. School ecosystems, learning communities, also learning atmosphere, teacher contribution, infrastructure development. All of these things come into play. And we can draw a line between this, what we're talking about now, and the story that we just did previously about these health practitioners. It's at the very foundation. If we are not dealing with the foundation... Have you seen a house that has a crack in the wall? What did the guy tell you? That in order to fix this thing, lazima tufanye nini?
Lazima tuanze kutoka chini. Because hauwezi ukaifix. But you see, we're talking about 43% who can't do it. Nimesema tu. Na si kwa ubaya.
We need to open our eyes to the realities of the times. That is very nice to look at pictures and look at a train that will take you from city to city, and that you say that we want to get to the place where we are developed. And this is across board. I mean, I don't even want to tell you about some of the things in Nigeria that the government we're so far off the mark that until you sort out things at the very fundamental level, that you have no business doing all this high poloi or things later on. Do the very basic. Do the basic. And this is what we're talking about.
At the end of the day, if we don't fix the basic foundation, there is no way you're saying you're moving anywhere. Because as much as you try to move up, the foundation will always let you down.
We have a lot of work
to do. And I think it's about time that we all just sat down and looked at how do we deal with this from the ground going up, not from up going down.
Lock everybody in their breakaway sessions. Lock people up in those rooms. Let's figure this out, because if we don't, we're hurtling towards a very, very bad place. Good morning. 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Stations in Baringo South have been submerged in flood waters, with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission saying it will have to find alternative polling stations tomorrow in Il Chamus and Mukutani areas. The affected areas are schools that were used by the IBC in the last general election. At one polling station, the entire school has been flooded as water from Lake Buguria and Lake Baringo has spread to and covered the school, houses and a hotel. The situation is dire, with crocodiles and hippos invading fields that were used by voters. The affected polling stations located in Mukutani and El Chermus areas of Baringo South include Ngambo Primary School, Lake Buguria High School, Lake Baringo High School, Salabani Primary School, Sintan Primary School, Oldepe Osinya Primary School, Nosukoro Primary School and Lesan Primary School. IBC says despite the challenges, the Commission has strengthened plans to ensure a by-election for the Senate. Njeri too is an IBC commissioner.
We have about 8 polling stations allowed Lake Baringo in Baringo South, which have been affected by floods. And that means that the citizens who are voting in this by-election may not be able to access those particular polling stations. I really would urge the citizens to not be affected by the fact that these floods. IBC is organizing to make sure that they vote in this particular by-election by gazetting a new station just next to them. The process will be credible, it will be transparent, it will be above board, and everybody will see what will happening in the polling station and also at the tallying center.
Nyamweya County Governor Amos Nyaribo's leadership has been increasingly questioned by the County Assembly after it passed a motion to remove him from office. About 28 MCAs attended the voting session, with 12 others avoiding to attend the Assembly sessions that were held yesterday. However, Nyamweya County Assembly Speaker Thaddeus Nyabaro allowed 6 of those present to vote on behalf of their absent colleagues in order to meet the legal requirements for the motion to remove the governor from office before it was sent to the Senate.
Total number of the votes cast 23. Yes votes that who voted for yes 23. No votes 0. Abstain 0. Total number of valid votes cast 23. In this case, as per the votes cast here, honorable members, His Excellency Honorable Kimomi Nyaribo, the Governor of Nyamweya County, from office by way of impeachment, has now carried the day.
Nyaribo is facing several charges that include abuse of office in a motion sponsored by Bonyamatuta Ward Representative Kimomi Matwere. This is the third time the County Assembly has approved a motion to remove him from office. He was twice saved by the Senate after ward representatives passed a motion to have him removed from office. A 2-acre Mombasa property recovered by the EACC from private developers who had illegally constructed residential units will be handed over to the Ministry of Lands and Housing for the development of 1,752 homes under the National Affordable Housing Program. According to the authority, the reclaimed parcel is part of 1.4 billion shillings worth of coast region properties recovered over the past 3 years. The land had been grabbed and developed by 3 individuals before the Commission intervened in 2024, demolished the structures and repossessed it. The ministry now plans to build 1,674 of the 1,752 units as residential houses under the Affordable Housing Initiative. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubag.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you. You saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You have land, Dennis. Yeah. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. This is it.
If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning at 7 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room coming in on this Wednesday and continuing conversations that we definitely need to have. As we told you earlier, we'll have a conversation around, of course, the politics of the day and what we're looking at when it comes to fundamental processes towards in a larger electoral process, rethinking the National Tallying Center. It has been said, it has been resaid, it has been said again. The senator for Busia County said, you know what, let's just scrap this, essentially, let's scrap this thing once and for all. Doesn't need to be part of the conversation. We're going to understand that a little bit more this morning because Willis Otieno, who is the Safina Party Deputy Party Leader, as well as an advocate, joins us this morning to have that conversation. Willis, good morning. Willis. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's good to have you here and it's good to see you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here once again.
Karibu.
Always a pleasure to share the platform with you.
Karibu.
Karibu sana. Well, let's get into it. But Dennis wants to share today's proverb. He'll tell you where it's from.
Yes, it's from the Mandinka people from Senegal. And they say, if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot do any harm. How would you interpret that?
For anything to work, you always find that the people will undermine you are those who are more close to you. For the outsider to succeed, you will need an internal assister. So be very wary and careful of the people who are around you, closest to you.
Yeah,
have I got it right?
I mean, it's along those lines that we were just thinking today that actually, you know what, the people who are around you sometimes and you think are the ones who might ground you are actually the ones who put you in the ground.
The blood is thicker than water. Where?
It's the most dangerous.
It's the most dangerous. All right, we're coming. It feels as though tomorrow is a general election. It feels as though people have been campaigning for months and getting us to the place where we will get into a presidential and senatorial and gubernatorial member of parliament and all of this. But it's not. It's a by-election. It happens tomorrow, the 27th of November, for 24 positions. And this is from senator through towards the member of the Counties Assembly. But what this does is also gives rise to a conversation that has been in these spaces for a long time, and that is the conversation around the National Tallying Center. That the Minor Kiai case delivered a judgment, essentially, that would say, you know what, the result of the election is final at the polling station.
Yes.
That the returning officer at the polling station calls it, signs a form and says, this is the number of votes cast, this is your winner. According to that case, we know very clearly that at the polling station, we get the result of the election. So the question has always been, if that's the case, why then do we still need a National Tallying Center to now put everything together and then have to go and then at another hotel or another center, then make announcements once again? The Busia County Senator is saying, you know what, scrap this thing once and for all, essentially. Having a little bit more of a conversation. Well, let's open this up for us a little bit. Why are we still talking about this when it seems as though the law has been very clear on what should be happening?
No, thank you. Number one, let me just say that I was the lawyer acting for Minor Kiai.
Yes, okay.
In the Minor Kiai case. We conceptualized the case and litigated in the court, High Court, to the Court of Appeal. And the position of the law was clear, and is still clear. But it's important that let us walk Kenyans through why that case and why the National Tallying Center is a fallacy. It is merely an institution established to undermine the sovereignty of the people. And I ask every Kenyan to look at their constitution, Article 138(2). 138(1) says this: if only one candidate for president is nominated, that candidate shall be declared elected. That's presidential elections. Then 2, the most important, if 2 or more candidates for president are nominated, an election shall be held in each constituency. That wording is very important. Presidential elections are held in the constituency. So every constituency conducts its own presidential elections. And each constituency is manned by a returning officer. And it proceeds to indicate in Article 138.3, it requires that at the end of the counting of votes in the polling stations, the IEBC shall tally and verify the count and declare the result. The Elections Act establishes now the appointments of constituency returning officers.
Yeah.
And it's important people to know, why are they called returning officers? A returning officer is the person to whom the returns of the elections are made. The returns of a polling station elections, that being the ballot box papers, cast and used, the election materials, are returned to the constituency returning officer. That is why it's the returning officer. But then IEBC, rogue as it is, comes up with a regulation and a gazette notice to declare their chairperson to become a presidential election returning officer.
Yeah.
Who does not receive any single returns. There is not a single ballot paper that is cast for presidential elections that finds its way to Bomas.
Let me do this slowly for those of us who've not had coffee. So each constituency, remember that we're not saying that. So polling stations there are thousands of them, right? But each constituency is a center for the presidential election. Right? And each of these centers has a returning officer. So all of the polling stations in the constituency essentially will bring the results of all the votes that have been cast to this constituency polling center.
The returning officer.
To the returning officer at this center. And the presidential election results are included there as well.
They are part of the returns which are coming from polling stations, handed over to the constituency returning officer.
So they've already been collated.
So what happens is this. The collation is done by the returning officer. What happens at the polling station is we count at the polling station and we close the polling station. Then the presiding officer, together with the election officials and the agents, they return those results to the returning officer at the constituency tallying center. And the constituency tallying officer, when he receives, for example, from Uru Gardens Primary School polling station 1, he has the long sheet from 34B. He should be writing Uru Gardens Primary School, this is Langata constituency, returning officer. Uru Gardens Primary School polling station 1, they've come. These are their returns. He writes down. The next polling station comes, Uru Gardens polling station number 3. He enters. And everybody is there. The presiding officers are there. The agents are there. He enters it. Because remember, the returning officer is just capturing what had been counted. He's not telling at the polling station. He's not changing anything. He's just carrying the polling station results and entering it now in the long sheet and observed by everybody. And as the presiding officers hand over their results in the form 34A, they also hand over the ballot boxes containing those results. So that if there be any dispute, the boxes are there.
We can come back and look. Even if we need to count 1, 2, 3 to 1,000, we can count.
It is all there.
So at the end of this process, we can see that in Uhuru Gardens polling center, that with the collation of all the polling stations, Willis Otieno has won the presidential in this center.
In fact, what happens in this in the constituency, now Langata constituency.
Now Langata constituency,
all the polling stations have brought. And as they're coming, we are entering. We write down at the end of it all, we do the math. We say, these are the results with an S. Not result, results. The results being that now, Jimmy Wanjigi and Willis Otieno have gotten this number of votes. William Ruto and Kindiki have gotten this number of votes. so and so have gotten this number of votes. Kalonzo, this number of votes.
Right.
Then we should be able at that point to say, Langata constituency returns are out.
Yeah.
And the constituency returning officer has made them public.
Mm-hmm.
And the media should be free at that point to capture the tallying process, the tabulation, and now the formal announcement by the arrow. Then we say we are done with the Langata in terms of presidential. We can now see the returning officer from Vita.
Yes.
Is doing the same
thing.
They are almost finishing.
Yes.
Let us now go and cover live coverage of Mvita,
Yes.
making their declaration of their results.
So you should not have another Langata then coming later and saying, oh, by the way, we were not able to. We have finished. We are done.
We are done.
All right.
And then when you do that, everybody sits in their home. Because now it is purely a question of the people of Langata have told us their returns.
Yes.
We've entered. The people of Mbita have told us.
Yes.
The people of Kisauni have told us. As they're telling us, the arrows are announcing, everybody will be adding up.
Okay.
And
So,
at the end of it, when the threshold is met, that who has gotten 50% plus one.
Right.
Who has gotten 25% of the votes cast in a minimum 24 counties.
Okay.
When that is achieved, all of us can see. In fact, the media at that point should be able to say, as per our projections, based on what the arrows have announced at the constituency, we are calling this election for Jimmy Wanjigi and Willis Otieno, for example.
So, sorry, I know Dennis has, but so now, with the things that you have said, why would we still need to go again and go to Bomas? Now there's no more Bomas. I don't know where it would be. Why? Okay, CC. Why would we still need to then go again and now start saying that we didn't see this, we are still adding? That has been the practice. Why would that need to happen?
That's a very good question. And I want Kenyans to understand. The entire infrastructure for Bomas costs you approximately 20 billion. And what is the purpose of Bomas? And I'll say this without fear of contradiction. Bomas is just purely a crime scene. It is where somebody who wants to interfere with the elections gets a bird's eye view. It's a filter. That I have seen what the returning officers at the constituency have announced. I want to interfere. I want to know where I need to top up. I want to know where to bridge. So what they do, they tell the media, don't make any announcement of what the arrows at the constituencies have done. Come to Bomas to receive your feeds. Then how do they do it? This is how they do it. Bomas at 5 or 7 p.m. in the evening, which, number one, is impractical. If polling closes at 5, by the time you do the closing procedures of an election, closing procedures simply means you take note of all the ballots which were issued, look at the ballots which were retained, and you fill all those forms, you seal the boxes, you rearrange the polling station now to become a counting station. It is practically impossible to conclude that process and issue results by 5 or 7 p.m. Impossible. But we witnessed in 2017, at 5 or 7 p.m., 7 minutes after the close of polling, IEBC at Bomas starts showing you at the National Tallying Center polling stations giving results in favor of Uhuru Kenyatta. Right? Then, before you know it, they are releasing some polling station from Marsabit. Before you pay attention, there's a releasing one from Baringo, there's one from Kisumu.
Yeah.
So they are jumbled up. So the whole nation is now at a loss because they are throwing at you polling station results from all over the country. You don't know which constituent they come from. You cannot keep track. 99.9% of Kenyans have never heard even the names of those polling stations. And that is how they end up even having the so-called fake polling stations. Because we don't know them. Nobody can keep track. Nobody knows the polling stations by names. If somebody just tells you even polling station, Urgade's polling station,
you say, okay, fine.
Stream polling station 8 of 12. Maybe there's even no 8. It's up to 7. No one knows. But at the constituency level, We keep track. So what they do at Bomas is this. They take over the sovereignty of the people at Bomas. Whatever we did at the polling stations and whatever we did at the constituency levels is ignored.
Essentially, it's rubbished.
It's rubbished.
Yeah.
Now, at the national tallying center, they have a bird's eye view. They know what their favorite candidate has received. They know how much they need to top up. And they're the ones who are controlling the information flow. And when they control the information flow, they'll determine what they're feeding the people of Kenya.
And only for the presidential election.
That is where the mischief is.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, I just want to look at the counting of the votes, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but the counting starts with the presidential vote.
Yes.
That means even before we get to the member of National Assembly or the governor, we already know who has won a specific polling station as the president. We go to the constituency, it is the president's vote which is always received first. Now, at that point, with all the 290 constituencies in the country, one would say by the time we are sitting at Bomas with enjoying the choir and China Mandazi, we already know what the results are.
Back put it this way, Dennis. Every polling station should have at maximum 700 registered voters. Maximum. Polling ends in Kenya at 5 p.m. On election day. Give or take, you take 1 hour to do the closing procedures. Give or take. Then, after the close, so it means by 6 p.m., the closing procedures have been done. Then give or take that I'm giving you 1 hour to just count 1 to 700. Even if we start counting now 1 to 700, it will not take us 10 minutes.
Yes.
But out of abundance of caution, give it 1 hour. So it means, then I'll say, give an extra 1 hour, just for any contingencies that you may not have foreseen. By 8 p.m. of elections night, by 8 p.m. of elections night, somebody somewhere knows the results of the elections, because there is no polling station in the whole country that is still counting presidential election results.
Okay, so Willis, this is interesting because it's also necessary that we realize that as we have these conversations, that there are many a Kenyan, many a Kenyan, that we don't even know the number of votes that can be cast at any polling station. We don't know that, that you can't exceed a certain number, that you can't say that 10,000 people voted here. It doesn't happen. So just like you said, 700. If we count from now to 700, from 1 to 700, like you said, will be done in 10 minutes. So other people, 1,000 other people, 1,400 and I think it's 80 other people can be doing the same thing, and we would be done in 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
Simultaneous counting. If we know that it closes at 5, and at 5 o'clock we begin to make this computation, we can actually be done in 3 hours around the country, right?
Yes.
In terms of counting.
Yes.
But we've clouded this thing in mystery. Are you saying essentially that because we've drawn it out and said, okay, that is the time that then mischief starts to take root?
Exactly. It is a system designed for mischief. That's the principal design of that system. If we left it as envisaged in the Constitution, that let the constituency, as provided in the Constitution, be the center of presidential elections, then the people in that constituency are all able to know and follow up on the polling stations in that particular constituency.
Okay. We may be confusing people just a little bit, Willis here. So let's just take a step, we've taken a few steps back, right? So when we go and we talk about the constituency, essentially we are saying that all the polling stations that happen in a particular area, the constituency, which also is a polling station, but
Center.
then is a center now.
Area.
It's like the headquarters.
Yes.
It's like the headquarters of this region where the election took place, where the voting took place.
Yes.
So all of that will come to, and because you already have 290 constituencies in the country, it was easy to then pinpoint that Westlands constituency is a center, that you will say that Embakasi is a center, and that you will say that Langata is a center. So all of these, the 290 will now bring their results, and that will all be tallied and will say these are the results. But the constituency essentially is the headquarters of this area, and that's why it's called a polling center. And because you already are demarcated, we use the constituency because it's already there.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we know this and it is clear, and IEBC being a constitutional body, if they have this fundamental understanding that this collation has already happened in 290 headquarters, as it were, and it is final, according to the law, it's final, why wouldn't they be very ready, even with a new IBC, why wouldn't they be very ready to say, you know what, scrap this thing? We wouldn't need Okoh Mtata to come and say, come on, guys, you don't need to count anymore. Why wouldn't they just come and say, you know what, remove the thing?
The constitution is clear.
Yes.
I have to take you back a little.
Okay.
When I was arguing my NIKI case in the High Court, IBC was the respondent. Our petition was about interpreting the constitution and giving effect to Article 138. You know, IBC was opposing it.
Opposing what?
That polling station results are final. Start from that. IBC, we are telling the court that our reading of the constitution, polling station results are final. And presidential elections are constituency based, not national.
Yes.
IEBC was in court saying polling stations results cannot be final. As IEBC, we have a duty to relook into them, to recheck them. And we are saying that is not your duty. That's the duty of the court. If anybody is disputing.
Yes.
So that's the mindset.
But
and
who
for your information,
but who conducts the election all the way from the beginning? Is it not IEBC?
No, in their mind, understand it this way.
Yeah.
In their mind, by the way, they don't consider the presiding officer
as
to be IEBC.
Who is
they don't consider the returning officer at the constituency to be IEBC. To them, IEBC
is the commissioners.
Are those 7 people who are sitting in Nairobi. That is what their mindset is. They think they are their commission. They don't even think that when the elections are being conducted at the constituency level, that returning officer is IEBC. That presiding officer, that clerk is IEBC.
It is, and it's an IEBC process.
Yes, and for good measure, the matter went to the Court of Appeal. We won the argument in the High Court. The court agreed with our interpretation and upheld it. IEBC appealed. IEBC was saying, the High Court is wrong. We must have an opportunity to look into these results at the polling station and reconfirm them and check them and make sure that they are okay. That if they are not okay, we have a right to change them, to make them okay. That was the argument. And the Court of Appeal told them, no. Those results are final. And the elections are done at the constituency. What did they do post that? They have since ignored minor care. They are still going on with what they are trying to do that the court was telling them you cannot do it. They are still maintaining their National Tallying Center and declaring their chairperson to be a returning officer of presidential elections. And let me give you something that maybe Kenyans can relate to easily. Nowadays, Kenyans follow American elections. In American elections, the elections are conducted per state.
Yes.
Each state conducts its presidential elections for the President of America. And once the states have done their polling, counted the polling station results, which is done at the state level, the results are projected. The media is able to project that as per Hawaii state, Obama has received this number of votes. We go to California, Obama has received, you get?
Yes.
To an extent that the media is normally the first to make their final, the projection of the election, to call the elections. That because we have been to every state, we have seen what the states have announced. Based on these results that we've received per state, the winner of this election is X. And the system in that country Because everybody's seeing it, not just the media. Everybody's present at the state level. They are seeing what is coming out of the precincts. They are able to call the election and accept. So in Kenya, I want us to equate the constituencies with the states. It is every constituency should be conducting their elections, making their declarations of the results, and every Kenyan, wherever they are sitting, based on what the constituency returning officers is declaring, should be able to note down, do the addition, tabulate the figures, and say, once we reach the threshold, so and so has won the elections. So that even if you are to file a petition, Raila Odinga the late, may his soul rest in peace, had never had a problem with the votes cast for him, for example, in Kasipul Kabondo. But you're now forcing Raila Odinga to file a petition challenging the elections, the entire presidential elections, when he has no problem with the votes cast in Kasipul Kabondo. If we went the way the Constitution had envisaged, even filing a petition, I will only be able to flesh out certain constituencies
that I have a
problem with. I will only file my petition in respect to Tharaka-Nithi, for example, or this particular Mvita, Kisauni. I'm able to say these are the results I'm questioning. Then, at the point of filing that petition, and I've fleshed down which constituencies, those constituency results, including the ballot boxes and papers, can easily be delivered to court. Yeah, maybe there are only 4 constituencies. The ballot boxes can be brought to court here in Nairobi. But when you file a petition challenging the entire election of the president, because you don't know where the mischief took place, because they find they start stealing votes even from where they could not do it, they just start adding up numbers or subtracting from one competitor to put to another competitor.
So if this process then bore any weight, this one that we're talking about where IEBC insists that it is then of necessity that the tallied results are then retallied, then if it bore any weight, would we then say, then why do you only do it for the presidential election? If it bore weight, then do it for everything from MCA through to governor.
Correct. And that is why, to try to address that mischief, they legally declare their chairperson to be the returning officer for presidential elections. And maybe I should tell you this, that we don't lose it.
Yeah.
Article 138 of the 10 of the Constitution. What is the role of the chairperson of IEBC? The Constitution has defined for the chairperson what his role is in presidential elections. Within 7 days after the presidential election, the chairperson, not the returning officer, no, the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission shall declare the result of the election and deliver a written notification of the result to the Chief Justice and the incumbent president. The word used, he declares the result, the outcome.
One. Yeah.
The person who has met 50% plus one, the person who has met a minimum 25% in 24 counties, this is the winner. That is the singular role of the chairperson of IEBC in presidential elections.
They're not to interrogate, they're not to interpret, they're not to tally, they're to announce.
They are not announced. He's supposed to just issue the certificate of winner. And I ask Kenyans, go into the website and internet and check the certificate of winner that the chairperson prepared under Article 138.10. It only has one name. It does not contain any results that so and so received this number of votes. So and so. No. It only has the name of the person who has met the threshold of the Constitution.
You know, Willis, as I hear you speak and just understanding it, then we've never really held an election in this country based off the requirements of the Constitution.
My people suffer for lack of knowledge. For the longest time, legacy politicians and their surrogates have taken advantage of the I'll call it constitutional illiteracy of most Kenyans. Because I was arguing this thing in 2014. Because I was looking at 2013 elections, I was like, you didn't do it as per the constitution.
Yeah.
I was there in 2013. The court affirmed this position. IBC has ignored this position. But now we're in the era of enlightenment. The Kenyan people are now getting more and more enlightened. And they are now being more assertive in demanding for rule by the constitution. This is one issue that if you ask me, because this is about sovereignty. This is the ultimate point when the Kenyan people donate their sovereignty to their chosen representative. And about the president. This is one thing the Kenyan people should not let go. If Kenyans are to go to a revolution apart from on the economy, this should be the next one.
In terms of how elections are run. There's a question here, and you know where it might appear a little obvious, but let's do this. Please ask Willis, how can the chair know the winner without adding up and tallying the polling station results? I'm assuming it was a process, and we know that one of the reasons why elections are so expensive in Kenya, and just going to your answer, why elections are so expensive, is that across board you have all these people who participate in the election who must be paid, who participate for counting, who participate in, sitting there as you come in and register and then cast your vote and all of this across the country in all, across counties. So they are part of the process. For you to get the result at the constituency polling center, they have done the due diligence. So they are part of the process. So the question here for you, Willis, is that how do you expect the chair to make an announcement or to offer a certificate without going and counting again at Bomas or now
the
KICC?
chairperson should sit down in his boardroom or in his office with the list of all constituencies and the returning officers. As the constituent returning officer is doing his announcement, captured on live, even him, he should be doing his own, that constituency Langata has declared, these are the results.
Yeah.
Mvita is ready, he enters from Mvita. So-and-so is ready, he enters it. Then, as he's able to see who has met the 50% plus one, who has met the 25% threshold in 24 counties. You don't need Bomas to do that. Because the bulk of the work has been done at the constituency level. Whatever now remains is simple arithmetic. He can do it in his boardroom, in his office. Just like I can also do it in my boardroom, in my office. Just like the media, when they're doing their projection, can also do it in their studio. And any Kenyan with access to a calculator
can do it.
Because we all know the constituencies. The constituency tallying centers are gazetted tallying centers.
Right.
We know them. The returning officers of the constituencies are gazetted officers. And when they are doing their processes, they have with them the agents, the other election officials, and observers. And you have media capturing and relaying to the Kenyan people that process up to the declaration of the results. So we don't need the chairman to also invite us to do his addition of what we've already participated at the constituency level. That's now purely administrative. Tell the listener, it is purely administrative. We don't need to spend 20 billion for somebody to add what we all know. We all need a calculator. Maybe Kenyans can buy him a smartphone or a calculator.
That means, Willis, that if the presidential elections is called at the winner at the constituency, Kenyans know who has won in that constituency. Observers know. The agents know. We do not therefore need, hear me out, that this form that should leave the constituency come all the way to Nairobi to the chairman to do the tabulation and declare.
To me, that's the point. Even if there's a form that's supposed to be filled, it can only be the form of the returning over the constituency that he uses to tabulate. And he can even just fax it now to the IBC officers for archiving. Yeah. It does not become what they try to make it to be.
Yes.
That it is now...
We are waiting for the form.
Why can't... the interesting thing is this. This presidential returning officer, IBC chairperson, when he insists that he wants the form, why doesn't he insist that as you bring for me the form in your constituency, bring for me the ballot box? Because the primary document in the election ecosystem is the ballot. So they should be saying, then bring the ballot box also to Nairobi.
That means if indeed the chairperson was the returning officer, all the election materials should be returned to him.
That is the concept of a returning officer. He's the one to whom returns are made.
Okay. So essentially what we're saying here is that after the determination of the minor Kiai case, it would have been expected that this practice then would change. And if we're looking at 2014 and then moving forward, the one who was in this position was the late Wafula Chebukati. He should have actually said, you know what, there's no need for this bombers thing. Everybody go home. As all of the ROs from around the constituencies bring their results, we will then put this together and we will give you the result.
I'll issue the result.
He should have everybody shouldn't have been at Bomas in 2017.
Nope.
Nobody should have been at Bomas at 2022. However, they were there. And from all we can see, it would appear as though Erastus Ethekon is planning to be at Bomas, KICC, wherever, in August of 2027. Right now, having this conversation, although he tells us, and he's been telling us for the last 7 days or so, that there will be no misconduct at the IEBC. We will follow the law. Nobody has anything to worry about. It seems as though there's operation in two totally different galaxies here. The law and then what IEBC wants to do. And we're already seeing that there's a possibility of misconduct. And we're not talking about these little things here where people are saying, don't come into Narok, don't come in to fine people $1 million. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about fundamental flaws where there is a dereliction of duty, number one, and then there is a total ignorance of the law and doing what you want to do in order to then be able to manipulate a result. That's a glaring misconduct. But we seem to assume that it's going to be done and it's going to be okay, even in the face of Ethekon saying there will be no misconduct by the IEBC.
But the very misconduct, as you've put it, is just in the infrastructure that are setting up. If the Constitution and the courts have told you that presidential elections are constituency-based, then why do you have a structure that you want to create, a parallel system, to conduct the elections or to undermine? In fact, it's purely to manipulate the elections without following the Constitution. So Ethekon needs to be called out early enough.
Why wouldn't he be bold enough to come out and say, even from now that we see? Because this is a story that is carried, interestingly, on page 6 today.
What happens is this.
Give me a little wiggle room. That here, of course, we see that what Senator Okoh Mtata is saying, that the Kenya election problem stem from the National Tallying Center, just like you said, that has already been established. We're pushing for a court order preventing the IEBC from altering presidential votes once declared by constituency returning officers. That is even a thing that you have to take to court is a bit worrying. That we're saying, please don't alter. It's lawful. You shouldn't touch the results. This is what you get in raw form. Deliver it in that manner. Ethekon should have, in my opinion, and from what I see it, you can please explain from a legal perspective here, constitutional perspective, at the beginning of the establishment of this current IEBC, should have actually come out to say very clearly to people, as they have in other press conferences, that this National Tallying Center, circus fiasco, we're going to put it to bed. There will be no there will be nothing like that because this is unnecessary. Why wouldn't we have him being so robust in the first move to come out and say it's not going to happen? National Tallying Center, no. Restore trust in people.
The greatest challenge the Kenyan people face are legacy politicians and their surrogates. Ethekon is a surrogate of legacy politicians. Why do you expect more from him? I've told you Chebukati and Ahmed Isaac, it was Chebukati that time,
it was Chebukati,
was litigating with me, arguing that the IEBC must have a National Talent Center to recheck, to reconfirm, and to alter results. Those were their words in court. That's the mindset. that is why we need a national tallying center. And the presidential elections, the results, the presidential elections must be conducted from the national. They were arguing that they should have this national tallying center where they can recheck, retally, and alter. Those were their words in court. Then now, all of a sudden, you think that they will wake up unless the Kenyan people put pressure on them to change that position. I've told you, the primary reason why the NTC is designed is to manipulate the results. It is to steal the sovereignty of the people of Kenya, period. It has got nothing to do with actualizing the will of the voter. That I can say even in front of the chairperson of IEBC. The National Tallying Center, other than gobbling over 20 billion of our money, serves, the only other purpose it serves is to ensure that it provides a platform by the legacy politicians and the incumbents to manipulate our presidential elections. We are going to win these elections tomorrow. By elections in constituencies and in wards.
Yeah.
And those results are going to be called by returning officers in those constituencies. And at the time of announcement, when it is done, even the media will be able to replay it to us. They will capture to us in all those polling centers, constituencies, the declarations that are being made by the returning officers. And we will all know who has won. And the disputes will be narrowed down to the specific constituencies, if there is any. But then all of a sudden, when the same returning officer who has done the presidential elections for his constituency, you are telling him he cannot make an announcement, he has to send forms to Nairobi, not the ballots. And the media is told, don't capture the announcement of results at the constituency, come to Bomas and get our feed. In fact, let me draw a challenge now to the media. My challenge to our media is this. In the coming elections, presidential, don't buy fear. The threat about advertisement revenue, you are told, don't go and capture what is happening in the constituencies, come to Bomas and get a feed from us. We will feed you the results.
Literally.
That is nonsense. Tell them you will not feed us. We will go and find it at the constituency. And it's only what at the constituency that we are going to relay to the people of Kenya. Because as citizens, we must have a responsibility. If this system is refusing to live by the constitution, then nothing stops media from saying no. For purposes of the information we're relaying to the people of Kenya, we will do it as per the constitution. We will go to every constituency and observe the tallying process by the returning officers, and we'll capture that returning officer making a public announcement of the results by his constituency. At the constituency level, once he makes that announcement, we will do our adding up. But what these guys normally do, you find somebody that is coming as an IBC chairperson or a commissioner coming to tell you, oh, results for Samburu East, Raila Odinga, William Ruto. Another one comes, oh, votes, we have Bobasi, Raila Odinga, William Ruto. He's here in Nairobi. Who conducted the election?
And it was conducted and was done.
Done in Bobasi, in Njeri Barichachi. Where is that person? That's the person who is holding the returns. That is the person the media needs to look for. The person who is holding the returns. That is the person they should be capturing. Not somebody sitting at Bomas here, reading for you figures that even him, he doesn't know where they've come from. If you question him, he cannot even defend his own figures.
You know, Willis, as you speak, if you just look at even the county elections, for a governor, so you would go to every other polling center, count the governor's votes, and that, as is being announced, pretty much what should happen in a presidential election. And you look at when it's being called for governors, the media can call that out. Anyone can call that out because in a county, everyone is there and they are able to count and know who has won the election. But when it comes to the presidential elections, there are a lot of gates that have been put in place. Media cannot call it. The returning officer cannot do it. It is only the national returning officer who does not even exist in the constitution. Why?
Because it's about manipulating. Because if you ask me, That RO who is conducting the elections at the constituency level is able to call his results and announce them for all the other 5.
Yes.
What is so special about this other one? When the ballot boxes were there right before him, when the forms were all there, the presiding officer, the election officials, POs, and the clerks were all there before him. But now all of a sudden you tell him, for purpose of presidential, no, it has to come to Nairobi. But for purpose of the others, you can make your declarations.
Yeah. For purposes of the others, we trust that the numbers that you're giving us are okay. But we may have an issue with this presidential one. So let that one come here. So the process is clear and it's fair across board, from MCA to Member of Parliament to Senator to Woman Rep to Governor. We have no problem with that one. We have a problem with this one. So give it to us. We will be the ones to be able to sort that out. Yeah. Okay. The damning effect of this is so glaring, Willis, that essentially we are saying that somebody wants an opportunity and has had an opportunity in the past to manipulate the results of a presidential election, which is a crime. You've called Bomas a crime scene. Saitabao Olekanchori was almost in tears in the last election and called Bomas a crime scene. At that point, we really didn't know what he was saying. But from what you're saying now is that we are looking at anomalies that have been happening intentionally, and this is an abrogation of the law, but we seem to be okay with it. That we're just saying, okay, well, it's lawful. And then you going against it is unlawful. But it's happening, and then there's a body that has been established constitutionally to ensure that these things don't happen. But Willis, they're happening. They do happen. Why is it that it's as though, it's like you're courting the idea of constitutionalism?
Yeah.
And you're saying, okay, well, we can just play around with the idea. People will make noise, but after a couple of months, they'll keep quiet. It's a serious matter.
That is why I said, if there should be any other point of a revolution in this country other than the economy, it's on sovereignty. And the Kenyan people need to pay more attention to how their sovereignty is donated. And to give you an example, maybe this one's Kenya may relate to, those who are active in 207. Do you know the reasons why the elections of 2007 went the way they did? The media was at every constituency tallying center. And the media was able to capture what the returning officers were announcing.
One by one.
To the point where, when they wanted to manipulate the results at the national tallying center in favor of Kibaki, everybody could see through it. Everybody could see where the mischief is coming from. Because we had all witnessed ROs making their declaration of the results. We had all done our tallying. So at the point of theft, people were able to capture, arrest the thief. That is what we need. And the Kenyan people have faith in you. I don't think that legacy politicians and their surrogates are the ones who should be determining our fate, undermining our constitution. A nation cannot be strong if it cannot live by its constitution. It just weakens the social fabric of the society. It undermines the state. And in the fullness of time, this little clawing back on our constitution are the things that will break this nation. So the Kenyan people must say no. And Ethicon and his commissioners.
So who insists?
You have a responsibility.
So who insists that at the constituency tallying center, who insists that this is going to be the result?
These are the people I'm going to address directly. Number one is the information flow. And this is directly to the media in Kenya. The media must take a position to reject relaying documents or figures coming from Bomas. They say, as a policy and in respect to our constitution, we will capture and relay only information coming from the constituency returning officer duly gazetted. First step. The second group that I want to call upon are political parties. Because they are the primary vessels through which the citizens engage in political activities. They have a responsibility to amplify their voice and to put pressure to bear on IEBC and the other legacy politicians. Number 3 is civil society. They have a responsibility to raise civil awareness amongst the people. They have a duty to protect the constitution. Number 4 is our young people. Those who fought and died for this country. Those who are relentlessly pursuing a society that respects the true issue of the people of Kenya. They have a responsibility to pick up this and champion this cause. That for once, I'll follow my ballot box paper from the point I cast it to the point when it's making sense at the constituency. They must own the conversation. And number 5, the religious leaders can pray for us. And in their sermons, call out.
Preach the message.
Preach the message. If all of us play our role, I do believe the next elections we'll have in Kenya, we will know our president by the next day in the morning, 9 a.m. We will all know our president.
Willis, the law is clear on what needs to be done, but clearly we've decided not to just follow the constitution and what the law says. If you look at individuals who have been at IEBC, these are legal minds. You know, these are people who understand the constitution, because for anyone to be IEBC chair, almost a magistrate,
Supreme Court judge.
Supreme Court judge.
Yes.
Those are the requirements. One would say these are people who understand the law inside out. But who stands to benefit? Where does the pressure come from that these individuals who understand the law this well find it necessary to break the very law?
It is the legacy politicians, and more so the incumbent. That is the person who is sitting at the national having a bird's eye view. Who knows that I don't have enough votes. I want to be able to control which votes are going to be assigned to me. It is done at the behest of the incumbent. In this particular instance, the National Tallying Center is being set up to assist William Ruto to have a bird's eye view of the elections, in contradistinction to what the Constitution provides. That's the truth. If we were to live by the Constitution, if there was no intention from the incumbent and his political class to undermine, then nobody should be arguing over this. We should all be going to our constituencies, conduct our elections as by the Constitution. Whoever wins, we shake hands, and the country continues. But why the insistence? To an extent that I'm telling you, that infrastructure of the Bomas National Tallying Center cost us almost 20 billion. It is the single largest item for elections, apart from the remuneration. In terms of whatever you're purchasing, the equipment you're buying, the single largest is that IBC infrastructure, that Bomas infrastructure.
Right.
That is bought every 5 years.
Yes. The technology that they're deploying, that whole system that they're setting up, just to undermine your sovereignty.
And don't listen to Willis. Read your constitution, essentially, is what you're saying. If you don't want to listen to what Willis Otieno is saying this morning, and has been saying for a while now, just read what the constitution says and follow what the constitution says. Would you agree with that, Willis?
I agree. Article 138(2) and Article 138(10) understand the role of the chairperson of IBC, chairperson, not returning officer, understand the sphere where presidential elections are supposed to be held at the constituency, and read your Elections Act as well to know what a returning officer is, the person to whom returns of that elections are made. What are the returns? Returns are the ballot boxes, the ballot papers, cast and uncast, where they're returned.
It's 8:01, and that's clear. And there's so many moving parts to this, but this vehicle must move at one way or in one direction or another. Willis Otieno is Deputy Party Leader, Safina Party, as well as advocate. Constitutionally, it's very clear on some things. Thank you for being here this morning, Willis. We look forward to more conversations where we can engage on these matters, and it will be an interesting day to watch tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Asante sana. It's 8:02. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM. Spice FM. Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
You have land, Dennis. Yeah. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. This is it. If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
He is himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament. So
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament.
Well, when he said
the government,
when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo ungekuwa umeenda mbali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu hawaulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
SRC's mandate is constitutional. It's not an advice. It's actually something you must do.
Must do.
Like now you abandon, of course, the narrative of Wheelbarrow, Mutua Mjengo, Mama Mboga, and all those, that rosy narrative.
Your expenditure is 3.3 trillion, and you're collecting only 2.5. Out of that 2.5, you're spending 1.8 trillion to service loans and so forth.
That the CDF kit, it's itself a symptom of corruption.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
And here we are, 8 minutes after 8 o'clock on this 26th day. Sorry, I've taken you 2 days back of November. I should be remembering that it's the 26th for all intents and purposes. So, Karibu Sana, and we continue into this conversation. It's important for us to note that as we have some conversations, there's information that we put out there that's very, that's necessary to remember that courts having declared themselves in terms of positions on certain issues is in public. It's public information, and courts having declared themselves in one way or the other is also public information. And I'm just going to repeat that. In the minor Kiai case of 2014, which our last guest, Willis Oteno, has very clearly told us that they interrogated this issue, and the result of that case, having gone to the Court of Appeal, is that at the constituency tallying center, the result of the presidential election, the results that have been handed over to the returning officer are final. That was that was a summation of this entire court case that took place in 2014. And it is from that we then move in terms of what's happening, and the necessity to have a national tallying center then loses all potency. Mm-hmm. And that is the current case that Okoh Mtata is asking that, you know what, court, we're saying. Now, remember, this is not him asking that the court declares the constituency tallying center results as final. They are saying we need to scrap the national tallying center. So this court case, or rather this petition that Okoh Mtata brings, takes on a slightly different persona. So we get into those conversations and more. And we're looking into the IEBC this hour again, of course, this being a litmus test for how this newly established IEBC is then going to operate. And we're going to have that conversation this morning with our good friend and journalist, Member of Parliament for Wajir South is Mohammed Ado, and he joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Lou. How are you doing this morning?
Very well. How are you doing?
Good.
Karibu Sana, thank you for being here today. Ready for the polls is the question that we're going to ask. Members of Parliament told us that this IEBC has met the mark, and that after the vetting and the assessing of all of this, have said, you know what, all right, we're going to be assessing the IEBC state of preparedness, and you're going to be here to, of course, you're here to help us understand this a little bit better and a little bit more. But we're going to start off with today's proverb. Mm-hmm. Dennis will share that with you.
And our proverb comes from Senegal, the Mandinka people, and this is what they say: if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot do any harm. How would you interpret that?
That enemies outside need a bridge to get in, or a door to get in, or somebody to unlock the latch and let them in. So you should be more wary of the enemies within than those outside.
Yeah, they will always sell you out, eh?
Indeed.
Yeah, well said, well interpreted.
Kabisa. All right. So, see, the IEBC, Mohammed, is at the point where it's gotten put together in terms of its constitution, and now commissioners in place and moving forward. And before you know it, they have to test their mettle with this by-election that's happening tomorrow, and the many questions that are already coming into play in terms of what's going to happen, will Ethekon and his people then be able to make sure that they are seen and not just doing the things that they should be, but also seen to be doing the things that they should be? Is the IEBC prepared, using this by-election as a measure of preparedness?
Well, the scale is much smaller, in the by-elections than in the general elections in about 20 months or so. But that doesn't say, that's not to say that it is not a test for them. It's a huge test for them, how they conduct the by-elections, their preparedness will go a long way in instilling confidence in Kenyans that the Ethekon Commission is actually ready to carry out the elections. Any bungles would be really felt and would go a long way in telling Kenyans. It will be a sense of foreboding that the Commission is not ready. The Commission is not up to the task. So this is what they will have to be wary of. So far, we're seeing they're saying funding is available, security coordination with the relevant security agencies are, ongoing. They have everything ready, ballot papers printed and all that. Continuous voter registration also going on. So we are seeing a certain level of readiness on the part of the Commission. But I must say again, with a lot of certainty, that yes, the by-elections will go a long way in instilling confidence in the people about the readiness of the Commission. But we are walking into the elections with a lot of problems. For example, the voter identification and transmission kits need to be upgraded, as they are, the ones that they have right now, and the Commission has said it openly, are obsolete and would not work for them. So they need new kits, the KIMS kits. And then we're also going into this election with obsolete maps when it comes to the boundaries of constituencies and wards. And I believe the boundary review being postponed till after the next elections would come as a blot on the conscience of the Electoral Commission and a huge blot on their image as well. Although, again, in their defense, they say they were constituted much later and do not have time to carry out this very, very solemn task. But in terms of representation, which the current constitution is very huge on, the lack or the inability of the Commission to carry out boundary reviews would really have a huge impact on confidence in the general elections.
But Mohammed, as you speak about preparation of IEBC, fine, there is the aspect of infrastructure, funding, and everything that they have to put in place. But as you talk about just the by-election that you talk about, there is the aspect of the law. And what do I mean about the law? It's the fact that we have seen what would be civil servants participate in campaigns for candidates during this by-election. And one would have hoped that IEBC would have been in the forefront in saying no to that, addressing themselves to what the law says. And IEBC has been accused of being silent where the law is being broken. Fine, we have seen that individuals have been fined 1 million shillings for what they say, but it is much, much later after Kenyans complained that we have a silent IEBC. So as we talk about preparation, there is the aspect of, we're talking about funds that they need for them to be able to do their job, necessary procurement. But how about the other aspect of the law that IEBC is seen to be silent on, especially when it's being broken?
Look, it's not a problem that is just confined to the IEBC. It's a Kenyan problem. And we have to face that. We face that everywhere. We have fantastic laws Parliament creates some of the best laws, very modern and progressive laws. And the problem is always in the implementation. And that is not a problem just, for IEBC alone. Yes, public servants are involved in politics, and they're very wide-eyed about it with no remorse whatsoever. We face it in our constituencies. We face it in our everyday lives. And that's a problem. But again, this is just a symptom of a far wider problem.
What's the wider problem?
Huh?
What's the wider problem?
What?
What's the wider problem, if there's a symptom?
The wider problem is we make laws that we do not obey, we do not implement, and anyone can do anything as long as you are in a position of power and influence. So you see permanent secretaries going out there campaigning, cabinet secretaries campaigning, administration officials taking sides in political duels and siding with some of the candidates. I mean, it's a Kenyan thing now. It's part of the culture of impunity.
If that's the case, there's a lot of. I hear what you're saying, but then I would imagine that the lawmaking body would be a little bit more frustrated with the outcomes of legislation that are not followed. That if you spend time and putting your heads together, coming up with legislation that needs to then be followed for the guiding of the nation, and then you find that this legislation is not being adhered to, that the law essentially is not being followed, that resources have been spent to allow these processes to take place, and then they're not followed, I would expect that these same legislators would be up in arms. Or that you would call special sessions, so that you would raise alarm and say, come on, guys, we're not following this.
The politicians you're talking about?
Yes.
Parliament?
Absolutely.
I mean,
You're the same people who make the law, Mohammed. You're the same people who make the law. And then you don't follow the law. So why did you make it in the first place? Why spend the resources?
Oversight is a big joke in this country, and you know that. You should know that by now. I mean, look, I came into politics, as idealistic as ever, and you come and meet these things, and you raise an eyebrow today, tomorrow, slowly turns into frustration, and then suddenly you have to accept it because nobody else around you is concerned, and that's a huge problem. How much hate speech are on our airwaves?
Even as of yesterday,
I'm telling you. How much? What is the work of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission? How many people do you see being dragged to court? Let's talk about corruption. What is being done about the massive corruption everywhere? I mean, it's become part of our culture. So impunity. And that is what the civil servants are waging. I mean, yes, the law is clear. Spirit of the law is very clear.
Yeah.
You have broken the law. But who cares?
Should IEBC be concerned that as we talk about just general election, because many look at these by-elections as a recipe for what will happen in 2027. And with everything that is happening, the law being broken, civil servants participating in politics against the law, and IEBC is seated there, should they be concerned that these would then lead towards the 2027 elections and a doubt would be cast on them? And if they are concerned, how should they go about it?
I mean, I think this is one of the many factors, many issues that contribute to disputes at our elections every season. That's why we have disputed elections every time. And again, I think this time more than ever before, we're being prepared. We're being prepared for disputed elections. And the opposition are doing a good job at that, telling us this is a one-term government, it's going to be one term, and we've been indoctrinated already. So many of us have fallen into that thinking that, there's no other way. It's going to be just like that. To the extent people are vowing that if I don't do that, if I don't make that happen, then I'm going to quit politics, I'm going to do this and all that. Look, nobody is a saint on both sides of the aisle. We need to get our act together. We need to respect the law. Stop impunity. and think about a better Kenya than the one we have. And it starts with each and every one of us. Until that personal responsibility is felt, permanent secretary, principal secretaries will continue campaigning in constituencies while in office. CSS will be singing the praise of whoever they want.
I don't even know how you do it, because you sit in Parliament, for example, during sessions of Parliament, and the Speaker of the National Assembly, who essentially is supposed to call things to order, who is supposed to then ensure that legislation and debates then are running possibly, is a governmental position.
From state officials.
Absolutely, state officials. So it would be difficult, I would imagine, because I want to understand, Mohammed, how you do this. You know, we're speaking as fellow journalists, but we're also speaking as friends, but also speaking to you as a member of Parliament. How would you do it? Can you see yourself, for example, calling Moses Wetangula, who is the Speaker of the National Assembly, to order when it comes to political affiliations that he has taken in the public arena, and it is contrary to the laws of conduct?
And the position he holds.
Can you do that? Is it possible for you, as Mohammed Ando, to sit in Parliament today and say, actually, you know what, call to order, Mr. Speaker, sir?
I can and will do it. And I believe that is not the remit of the Speaker of the National Assembly. No doubt about it. Shouldn't be doing that. Colleagues in Parliament have done that, called him out loud. They've done it in the media. But again, it continues.
This is the thing, and because that's why we ask the questions that we do and have this conversation around IEBC today and other things in terms of its preparedness. Because if we're unable to call out some of the things that we see happening so glaringly in society from a legislative point of view, what would happen in terms of then behavior and practice where things have been legislated on? It is in the law that an abrogation of this law could see somebody put in trouble. But we see these things happening every day, and we seem to be, we are okay with it, because if we weren't, we would do something about it. So then what does it say about our lawmaking, and what does it say about our law practice if we are accepting of the things that are clearly against the law? How do we do this?
Look, I am as frustrated as everyone else who is frustrated about this issue. And it's not supposed to be. We've got amazing laws. We've got fantastic laws. And we should do the honor of following our laws. And again, those people in positions of influence, in positions of leadership, I believe have got more responsibility, more moral responsibility to follow these laws. We thought after the 2007 post-election violence and with the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission and the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010, that we've put all those years of impunity behind us. Unfortunately, we're seeing, even a more, a bigger problem than what we had then. And it all says something about the national culture. And when I think about it, and I think about this quite often, it all goes back to public perception of these things. If people are breaking the law when they're in office and holding public office, they should face their Waterloo in the elections. They should get, voted out. But does that happen? No, because we are voting along clan lines. Ethnicity is the major ingredient of the Kenyan politics, and it's the main consideration for somebody getting elected or not elected. When we are talking about the outcomes of elections, we always sum it up by looking at that community, who is it supporting? That community is with this person. Until we change that, and we think in unison as Kenyans, and think about what is good for our collective, our collective being as Kenyans and as a nation. As long as we continue drawing in different directions, you will have this impunity. You will have the flouting of the law. You will have big men who you can't have any say about what they do, however illegal and unlawful it is. And that is the culture we're building and passing on to the generations to come.
You see,
and that is the danger. It's not just a problem for this generation. It's going to be even a bigger problem for the generations to come.
You see, when you talk about preparations for elections, there's something that is critical, which is voter education, you know. So right now we have the ongoing voter registration that is ongoing across the country, but we have not seen a single attempt from IEBC to advertising or just speaking to Kenyans to come out. Fine, we've seen the commission come out, speak once in a while in press conferences, but there are no boots on ground speaking to Kenyans, encouraging the 6.3 million who are being targeted to get out there and register themselves as voters. What do you reckon of that?
I mean, we've seen the big billboards with big pictures of politicians.
Yes, politicians.
To vote.
Politicians.
They're not enough.
But the role is IEBC's.
I'm saying that in jest. Listen, yes, the role is IEBC's, and I think it should go beyond asking people to come and register. It should go as far as educating Kenyans about the power of that vote. I feel sad when and I've covered every election in Kenya since 1997, except the last one, which I was an active participant and I was running for office. So when you see crowds of voters standing outside polling stations, waiting for someone to buy their vote, it really hits me because, and this is what I've been telling my constituents during the time I was campaigning. Don't sell your vote. Your vote is about the future. Your future, the future of your son, the future of your daughter, and your well-being. I mean, if you use it right and elect good leaders, then you're going to get services that are going to ease the life in which you'll find ease in life. I mean, you have a dispensary here that doesn't have drugs. That is leadership. You have a school that doesn't have teachers. That's all about leadership. Every aspect of life in Kenya today depends on representation and service to the people. So if you want a better life, this is what IEBC should be telling Kenyans, that they should vote wisely. And all these, ethnic-based voting and all these, voter bribery and all these should all be tailored within the civic education, and even should go further, about to talk about how voting is part and parcel of being patriotic and loving your country. Yes, it should be done. I haven't been very keen to look and see whether they are doing it, but you said it very well that you haven't seen any. I believe voter education should be a huge component of the preparations for the next election, and a huge one at that. Yeah.
When we hear the things that we do, or we look into conversations that are currently happening, especially tomorrow seems to be the word dress rehearsal has been used quite often today and a couple of days, that it will show whether the IEBC is really worth its mettle in terms of what then it will be able to do tomorrow. And that it's carrying out of an election, but then also dependent on what happens through, it could then turn out also to be an indictment on a decision that was made to bring in this set of people to do this work. Do we put too much pressure or too much attention on this body when it comes to elections? Because even before anything, we've already started saying IEBC complacent here, IEBC this, that. Do we put too much pressure on this body, or do we not put enough?
Look, we have made our elections into a matter of life and death. Something that is totally different from how other progressive nations across the world look at elections. I mean, I've covered elections across the world, and you would go to places. I mean, election season in Kenya is a carnival. It is a carnival. You would go to a place where there are elections and you will not even feel a sense that there are elections. People would go out there, cast their vote, return to work after they are done. It's not even declared a national public holiday or anything. Go back to work and wait for the results, which are announced on television and in the media. And then the winning candidate holds, a celebration meeting in which they give either a concession speech or a victory speech to a group of their friends and the people who've been campaigning for them. And the next morning, it's like nothing happened. People go, people come. But here we've turned it into a life and death matter. Our political duels, are so full of pressure that the umpire, the referee of this, very emotive process, of course, there's a lot of pressure on them. Are they up to the task? Time will tell. These by-elections, of course, will give us a glimpse into, what kind of metal they're made of. We will be looking critically at the logistics part of it, as well as the confidence people would have in the results and how the elections are done. In the last election, we've had delays in materials being taken to polling stations, long queues, voting extending past midnight in some places, and all the other shenanigans. Now, are we going to see that in these by-elections in these different parts of the country? I hope not. But everything that happens from here on in, we have our eyes on the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission.
There are those who do not trust IEBC due to, even from the onset on how it was put in place, its constitution and all that. It was negotiated between political parties, and that alone has cast doubt on IEBC because many feel it is a vehicle for politicians, for them to achieve what it is they want. But even as we speak at the moment, there is our one Mr. Okombo here is saying, I was surprised to see people being bribed a small mattress, small blanket, and 500 bob in Malava in exchange for voter bribery. These are things that are out there for anyone to see. And if IEBC is to deal first with the doubt that has been cast from how it was put in place, its constitution, and voter bribery that we continue to see, how candidates are behaving, violence all over the place, how do they deal with that for Kenyans to say, we finally trust IEBC? How should they move? How do they win those who are not converted?
Look, elections are a process. Elections are not an event that happens in a single day, that day of casting your vote. It's a process. From the moment campaigns start, how candidates are handling themselves. Are they following the law? You just talked about voter bribery. It's part of the process. And that is what election observers and monitors look at to determine whether the elections were free, fair, and credible. So in that process, bribing people with sugar, tea leaves, mattresses, as you said, and all that is part of that process that will either lead to confidence in the elections or lack of confidence. And that is why we have so many petitions after the elections. Because if some of the candidates are seeing that people have been bribed and there's been a lot of inducement and all that other voter inducement, it doesn't add on to the confidence that the process would have if in the absence of all this. So the IEBC is in charge of that process called elections. It's not just in charge of voting. And the earlier the commission, I'm sure they understand. But again, as I told you, there is the theory part of it, and there is the reality part of it. As long as we have sacred cows in the politics of Kenya, no commission, no institution no institution, no commission, no individual, however well-meaning, will be able to follow the spirit of the law.
Where do the people come into all of this? Because we talk about, blood, sweat and tears is what a lot of folks are ready to then shed and spill for getting a position, right? And that it would seem as though a body that was put in place could be manipulated in one way or another to ensure that a particular person gets into that position. What's it going to take for the will and sovereignty of the people to actually sit in the position that it ought to when these decisions are being made, when these positions are being fought for, that the will of the people is essentially sovereign to all of this? When will that actually happen? Because bribing would-be voters, if anything, it talks about the fact that you are stamping on the will of the people, that you know that people need a loaf of bread, you know that people need a kg of unga, you know that, and so you're going to give them that in order for them to get your vote.
And you might be giving it to somebody who doesn't know where the next meal is coming from.
This is it.
You understand?
So the will of the people is not taken into consideration.
No, I have worked outside this country for 17 years. And nothing prepared me for what I came back to. Look, this is part, and I will repeat again. All this, you're just talking about the symptoms of a far greater ailment. Impunity stems from the culture. And that's our national culture now, corruption. The end justifies the means. And partly, I sometimes I feel like, the law of the jungle is actually in operation. Survival for the fittest. And that's what we have come to. Because we've failed to look ourselves as a single unit, a nation called Kenya, that has either to rise together or fail together. That we should not leave anyone behind.
Do you
not in the allocation of resources, not in the planning of development, not in creating equity, access to resources, access to employment. Equity in education. Do we have that in Kenya? And for some of us who came out of a lot of, from a good place in our hearts to try and take part in the building of our nation, every day that you remain in this system, the political system that we have built, which some cherish so much, it hurts. It's painful. But again, we can only continue to struggle, hoping that something would give and that the Kenya we deserve is around the corner. I believe the Kenya we deserve is around the corner.
How?
And honestly, how?
With who?
Even in those that you like to criticize,
yes,
even in the ones that you think they are doing bad or are breaking a certain law, sometimes I see things that I can applaud. So we are all struggling in different directions, but we are not having enough dialogue to say, hey guys, everyone is struggling in his own direction. That's not the way to go. Because some of the greed that you see, for example, in politics, the greed, the sheer greed, is because of a system. That's how you come into, and I'm talking here like a journalist, because I'm not holding back.
Yeah.
It's a system.
Do you reckon?
To survive, you have to play it a certain way. It's up to you whether you choose to join or not. But again, that is the system.
Do you reckon that part of this system are Kenyans, that we have allowed
I was
ourselves
about
to be
say
bribed?
the public are not exonerated of blame in the creation of this system.
Of this system. Which brings me to the question then. Do you reckon that as a people, as Kenyans, we have allowed ourselves to be part of the system in the sense that when a member of parliament or a would-be candidate understands what it is you need, that, like you've said, a person who's being given a kg of unga perhaps does not know where the next meal is going to come from.
Yes.
And from that as Kenyans, we have been indoctrinated into the system that we do not see our role in creating that system, and that if we fix ourselves as Kenyans and say no to bribery, that we allow our sovereignty to practice our sovereignty at the ballot and get that leader that will serve us right, perhaps even the agencies that have been put in place will have no option but to play by the rules.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't need to add anything. You explained it there so well that we've failed to think as Kenyans, and we're thinking as individuals. And I don't blame the public, because I'm not blaming anybody here. The people have been reduced to that. Those who are taking advantage of the destitution, the hopelessness, and the debilitating poverty some Kenyans are living in. I mean, you cannot be idealist when your stomach is empty. You have to be a realist. So that 2 kgs is going to feed your children who are not going to eat your idealism.
So that continues to be an indictment on a system, you're using that word again, that is already failing.
Rigged.
In its responsibility to ensure that the people of a nation are not in a position so desperate that they essentially will sell their birthright for 2 kgs of unga. This is what we're talking about.
And how lower can you go?
Because we know that there is a requirement by the laws of the land to make sure that food in the bellies of Kenyans is a given. That you should be able to eat, that you should then be able to have shelter, that you should be able to educate your children, that you should not be in a situation so desperate that when you weigh right against food, that you have to choose. And I think that's what we've done. That we've created a system so bastardized that we have to decide that should I choose what is right or wrong, or should I choose to eat that day, to live that day? That's how bad it is.
That's where we are at.
Is it too late to fix it?
No.
There's always hope.
No. And honestly, I see a great number of leaders out there, honest to God and trying to make a change. Kenyans are fond of lumping together all those politicians and just call them politicians. There are people out there who want to bring about change in Kenya, but they're not getting the right level of support. Because, again, playing it right means you are lacking much of what you need to succeed to the point where you can make an impact when it comes to changing the system. Power belongs to the people. And unless the people realize their power and demand the change that this country so much needs, then we will be living a very bad situation for the generations to come.
This election that's taking place tomorrow, this by-election actually that's taking place tomorrow, it seems to be a little bit more than a by-election, but that the influencers that would be are using this as or as match day to then be able to determine their position in the standings moving forward. Is it just that? Or is it more than that? Is it just a by-election, Mohammed?
In what sense do you ask?
People have camped out in Malava. People have camped out in Embu County. People have been camping out in Magarini. People have been there. And I often wonder, is it that things that were supposed to...
holders whose offices are empty.
Exactly. Is it that the work that's supposed to be done has been suspended?
We have reduced elections to a life and death matter. Why don't you leave it out to the candidates to sell their policies?
That's good.
Understand? Why don't you let the people decide? I don't know which slogan it was. I think it was Ford Kenya. Was it the Ford? Let the people decide. Used to be a slogan in the 90s. Listen, that is what our politics is. That is what it entails. You have to come out strong, so that people see you're strong and you have won, so that you win the next duel based on the fact that you emerged. You remember the Orange Democratic Movement and where it emerged from? Winning the constitutional referendum, right? The culture of, the winner takes it all. If you win this, you would look good in the eyes of the people. That's how it's going to be.
You are in the political space, and if you look at what is happening, even in the by-election, seems as if it's a do or die situation. Is it? Is it that bad that people will have to fight it out? That we see Kenyans 3 dead in Kasipul simply because people have to get to political office?
How many people knew Charles Ongondo Were? The MP, the former MP, the late, my very good friend. Actually, we were in a committee together. Great guy. How many people knew him before this election? Well, because our politics is turning into showbiz.
Yeah.
It's entertainment, by any other name.
And even if it's entertainment, if it's I have to be there, one would ask the question, at what point does Mwananchi then become front and center, even when we are fighting for these positions? Like you said, we've taken advantage of those who are in desperate need to educate, to eat, to get shelter. And if we understand that this is the position where Kenyans are today, do we ever think of solving those problems, or is it about once I get to power, that's it?
It depends on leader. And the next one. It just depends on what your motivation was in coming to politics.
Do you think that there's motivation?
And I see a lot. And I see a lot of people out there.
You need to complete that sentence. You need to complete that sentence, Mohammed, because essentially what you're saying is that and maybe we can actually today, the 26th of November, say it once clear that it is very true that there are some people who put themselves up for office and couldn't give a rat's behind about sorting out things and making it better for people.
There's a lot of truth in that.
It's all about them.
No, there's a lot of truth in that. But there's a great number of others out there trying to make a real difference, to change the lot of their people. So, you don't throw the baby with the bathwater. It's a mixed bag. It looks as if those who care more about themselves than others are, having the upper hand sometimes. But again, I believe it can be fixed.
So what in everything that we do, I believe that it should be progressive in terms of, getting from one place to another where the other place is better. That we often want to do this blame game where we say, well, it's the politician's fault for bribing the people, or it's the people's fault for expecting something from the politician, that if the people didn't ask, the politician wouldn't give. Then on the other side, well, if the politician didn't offer it up because they knew that they were not worth their, the metal, that they wouldn't offer it. Chicken egg situation. That the people who are asking for these bribes are actually not poor. They're not hungry. That they just want to
You
see.
could say that too.
And you want to see if this person is actually going to give you something on that day for you to even hear what they say. Or that, I'm going to take the 2 kgs of unga, but I'm not going to vote for you. All of these scenarios, while different, could all be true at the same time. But that these are symptoms of a system whereby we have not presented enough of a situation where we see things working right for people to understand their options. Whose responsibility is that? Is it collective? If so, whose is it?
We, the public of Kenya, I'd say, because at the end of the day, Kenya belongs to all of us. This is our country. Do you have a spare country? Do.
Me?
Yes.
Yes, actually.
Yes. We don't.
But I mean,
we don't.
We don't. We're stuck here.
All in
We
jest,
don't have
of
a
course.
spare country.
Yeah.
So we need to fix our country. We need to support our leaders. And I think it starts with the fact that we support our leaders, correct them along the way. I mean, if you've given somebody a 5-year term, don't start shouting one term, at the first year or the second year, because a complete picture of what they are about and how their vision has worked can be realized only after the end of the term, because that's when you are given the constitutional chance to judge and cast your ballot again to see whether you have more of the same or you want change. We need to respect leaders. That respect is broken. We are abusing our leaders. We are looking at them as automated teller machines that you just fork out 200 shillings. So the price is much higher in my region, by the way. If you give somebody 200,
they'll give it back.
You are in trouble. Tokula bakora. You need at least 1,000. I mean, depending on the age of the person, if it's an elder, at least 5,000. Yes, this handout culture has to stop. We need to put premium on development. We need to put premium on things that will change our lives. Not, a quick fix like 2 kg of unga. We need to start living for beyond today.
Mohammed, I want to ask the question in 2 different ways. Do you reckon that Kenyans understand the power of their vote, what that would do to them? And does the leaders who've been given that right understand the power that they have been given by the citizenry to deliver?
It's a mixed bag once again. Some of us do understand the responsibility we've been given. I mean, in my constituency, for example, the poverty in some places is so debilitating. And we're not just talking about poverty, we're talking about existential issues, like people not having water for 60 years, not running water. The people have to drink water from ponds, which are also accessed by livestock.
And yet there are governments in place, county governments for...
And the county government is a recent phenomenon. I'm talking about government since independence. And nothing, nobody paid attention. 45 years without any water, 33 years without water, 29 years without water. Communities who have lived and were accessing water from the same water hole as their livestock. Water that's not fit for human consumption. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about kids learning under trees because they don't have classrooms and have to sit on the floor.
And this is a current reality.
It is. We're trying to change that, one day at a time. But it is a reality. And for most parts of northern Kenya, you've seen all, the schools in Turkana under a tree with a blackboard, leaning under an acacia tree, and the teacher teaching half-naked children. That is, and we're talking about universal education. We're talking about universal access to healthcare. I mean, these are just words being bandied around, but the reality, some of us are trying to change that. And I believe a good number of Kenyan leaders mean well and want to change that. But again, the public are so, stuck in these existential problems that they've learned to live for the day. Pushed to live for the day. Indoctrinated to live for the day. Conditioned to live for the day. Because they don't know where the next meal is coming from. Until we start bearing in mind the debilitating conditions in which some Kenyan communities are living under. And the imbalance in resource allocation and sharing of the national cake. I mean, there are communities in some parts of the country who have never seen a tarmac road. So communities are seeing for the first time now. The people of Kotulo in Wajir and Mandera, there are two Kotulos, by the way. The people of Tarbach are seeing tarmac for the first time. The people of Habaswein saw tarmac just 2 years ago for the first time. And you could, if you go on TikTok, you'll see all the TikTokers, marveling at and recording videos. This should not be happening in this country. When we're talking about dueling of, roads and, creating superhighways in other parts of the country.
But we all clapped during the State of the Nation.
We did not all clap. No.
Okay, I beg your pardon. There was some clapping.
There was some clapping, yes.
In Parliament when the State of the Nation was being given, when we were told about this 28,000 kilometers of road that would be done.
But again...
And there are parts of the country that are languishing in poverty.
Look at the vision the president had. I mean, daring to dream.
Okay.
Honestly. I really bought into what he was saying.
Okay.
That it is possible. That it can, and I don't want to be a doubting Thomas. I believe it can be done because I have watched and covered other countries
where it has happened.
It has happened. In Qatar, in 1995, when there was the coup d'etat in which the current father Emir in Qatar toppled his father, he made a speech. Qatar was by then just, very small, tiny place that, still tiny, but again, right now it is a renowned nation across the world.
It's a pearl of the Gulf.
For many reasons.
Yep.
Very many good reasons. So he made a speech and said, I did this. I abhor what I did, toppling my father. I don't believe in coup d'etats. But it had to be done because this country, the capacity and the where it is right now and the potential are really, the potential is far greater than where it is right now. And I want to fix it. And I promise you, I'll make your passport one of the best in the world and your country one of the most renowned in a very short time. And he did within no time. Qatar today is the biggest exporter of liquefied natural gas. It's the second, it has got the second the deposits, making use of the minerals in the country to turn around an economy that wasn't performing at all. Singapore, we've read the former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew's book, From Third to First World. We've seen Malaysia and, Korea and what they have done. We've seen, the Gulf countries, and all the dreaming that they're doing. Why can't we dream? Kenya is a country that can achieve great heights if we put our act together and support the leadership that is dreaming. But again, we also have to point out what is going to be an obstacle for the leadership along the way, which is why I pointed out as soon as I came out of Parliament. And I said, look, Mr. President, you're doing fantastic. I really like your idea. But first deal with corruption because that is going to waylay you.
That's true. For sure. And to then be able to look into these things and have these conversations, very important. That, yes, you can dream. A lot of what we see around the world today are the end results of dreams.
Yes.
But the dream was taken from just a dream and it was put and implemented and then into reality. Absolutely.
And that is a responsibility on all of us. Because at the end of the day, Kenya belongs to all of us.
Mohammed Ado is the Member of Parliament for Wajir South, has been here with us this morning. If anything, we can go dreaming and making sure that these things become reality. Thank you for being here this morning. It's 9:01. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
And good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Nyamweya Ubaga. Now, the security detail of Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya has been withdrawn. Speaking to journalists, Natembeya said that officers guarding his home and escort team were pulled out at midnight, and the move comes days after armed attackers ambushed the governor in Chwele Ward, Kabuchai, on November 22nd, damaging his vehicles. The same group is reported to have raided the home of Kabuchai MP Majimbo Kalasinga. Natembeya claims he was shot at during the chaos and accuses National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula of orchestrating the violence for political reasons, allegations Wetangula has not publicly responded to. Residents of the Chepchoina land complex in Trans Nzoia County are calling on the EACC to investigate government officials accused of grabbing their land. Community members, among them Francis Kapchanga and Chumba Chetatum, warned the alleged grab could trigger a major crisis if the lands and security ministries fail to act.
Wakati nilipewa shamba hii wakanistaki, ndio tukashinda hii kesi. Juzi tu nikaona mtu ameingia kwa shamba eti ameripossess shamba ikuwe yake. Wakafukuza wafanyakazi yangu na mtoto ile na kaa nyumbani hapa, na wakapiga mfanyakazi ya kuchunga ng'ombe. Jumla ya watu 23 ndio wamekufa katika shamba hii. Wakora hii wanatuma na watajiri wakubwa wakuja wafamie watu. Mwita yangu watu ya EACC na ofisi ya Attorney General na ofisi ya Murkomen na ofisi ya Martha Koome waingilie kwa haraka ile waokoe watu ile wananyakua shamba, kwa sababu shamba ile imeborwa hapa inafika eka 700 na watu ya lands na watu ya serikali wanafanya officers wa serikali.
Chetatum claims some land officers are allocating single parcels to multiple owners and facilitating illegal takeovers.
Sisi hatutakubali mtu yote akuja paka hapa akuja atoe mtu kwa shamba. Wewe utatoa hiyo mtu upeleke Kenya gani? Na hata serikali kama wanasikia, wewe utatoa mtu hapo kwake, mwingine amekaa hapo iko mtoto yake amefika hapo na ako na familia yake. Na wewe unataka kuja kuweka familia ya mtu mwingine juu. Mama, hii ya settlement scheme, hiyo mama ndio meleta kifo katika Trans Nzoia hii. Na hakuna maana watu waendelee kukufa. Sisi tunataka appointment Murkomena na Waome akuja kwa ground hapa, akuja asikize mambo ambayo iko hapa. Hii mambo ya double allocation walitoa wapi? Hiki tunaita repossess. Hiyo kitu kama ni parliament ilipitisha hiyo kitu tunaita repossess, watoe katika Kenya hii, hatutaki kuona.
Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo is today expected in Swam on the Kenya-Uganda border to inspect construction of the Kitale and Ndembes highway and the new customs post. His visit comes 7 weeks after the government paid the contractor 175 billion shillings to complete the project, which was 84% done. Once operational, and customs post is expected to ease congestion at Malaba, boost cross-border trade with Uganda and improve the movement of goods, especially farm produce from Trans Nzoia. That's the News Wire. I'm Nyamweya Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting, people went there, sat, listened, looked at him, there was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
when you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, "Staki kuongea." Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament, so...
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said...
The government.
Yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu hawaulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every week.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Coming in at 9 minutes after 9 o'clock, and this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We continue into our conversations this hour, and coming into the final one for this Wednesday, getting over the hump and away into things. We'll continue this conversation, or rather into the conversations that we've had, and we'll continue with a conversation around Kenya-US trade ties. And joining us this morning is the commercial counselor at the U.S. Embassy here in Kenya. His name is Ryan Hollowell, and joins us this morning. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Karibu sana. Thank you for being here this morning. Of course, quite a number of issues that we'll be discussing this morning. Notwithstanding, you've heard of dead cat theory?
Yes.
You've heard of dead cat theory. In this case, it's dead turkey theory.
Exactly. Happy Thanksgiving.
But that will not sway us. That will not sway us from the conversation that we will be having. But before we get into it, we go into a different African country every week. This week we're in a different African country every day, and we come back with their proverbs. Dennis will share with you. We'd love to hear your interpretation.
Yeah, we're in a very beautiful country called Senegal. And from this country, we have the Mandinka people. The Mandinka people have this proverb. If there is no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot do any harm. How would you interpret that? What do you think the Mandinka people were saying at that time?
Wow. That's a heck of a lead off. Again, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for having me here. That's a good lead. I think, what we're looking at here in Senegal or here in Kenya is all about partnership and how to combat those enemies, how to combat those forces, and to kind of create these partnerships that are partnerships for good. Partnerships for mutual prosperity, partnerships that will not just benefit one country, and that's really what we believe at the mission is important.
Yeah. Straight into the fire.
For sure.
Right into it.
Right. So, I mean, let's look into what Kenya is and where it stands with the U.S. in terms of its relations over time. I mean, for a while, it has been that the relations between both countries have been, amicable. They've been good. There's been the development agenda, and if anything has happened, Kenya has fallen into a situation that has affected other countries as well, and not just Kenya. So it wouldn't be that there has been any kind of animosity really between the two nations. How would you describe that relationship today, 2025, into a Trump administration for the second time ago, and where Kenya is today?
No, I think this administration is picking up right where it left off in 2020 in terms of a strong relationship. As you rightfully pointed out, we see Kenya as an anchor. As an anchor in East Africa, whether that is politically or whether that is with respect to trade and investment, Kenya is that anchor, and I think U.S. companies see that as well. I think the opportunities are here. I think that relationship continues to grow and to strengthen, and that's what we're focused on day in and day out at the mission across all angles of the relationship.
Yeah. When you look about the two countries, so you look at trade, the AGOA Pact that expired in September. You'd also look at collaborations that have been there between Kenya in terms of security, and you'd look at intelligence that the United States has been giving Kenya, especially in the fight against terrorism with the Al-Shabaab militia. And one would say that that is collaboration that has existed over time. And moving into the future, are there any other wiggling room for Kenya and US to continue collaborating, especially on immigration, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about immigration, you're talking about visas, you're talking about that process. We still have over 4,500 Kenyans studying in the United States, and we're looking to continue that forward. But that, as you rightfully pointed out, that relationship is cross-cutting. It's not just trade, it's not just security, it's not just healthcare. Sure, as we always say. When there's an elephant in the room, you introduce it. And so you brought up AGOA expiring. Certainly, the White House has indicated that they are supportive of a short-term reauthorization of AGOA, and now that sits with Congress. But to me, AGOA doesn't define the trade investment relationship. In fact, we're working. If you look at, obviously, we have tariffs globally, and what that framework is looking like. There's a reason why Kenya is at that baseline of 10%. Unlike others on the continent, in West Africa, or even in Southeast Asia, where some of the largest competitors are sitting, some as high as 46%. There's a reason, is because of the strength of the partnership here between our two countries. But in addition to that, there are other ways that U.S. companies are working to, find those workarounds as well. There's an executive order that came out that, with respect to the tariffs, that if you increase the U.S. inputs for, say, textile and apparel, to utilizing maybe U.S. cotton for products that are going to the U.S., you can then take that and reduce, actually, what that effective tariff rate is. You also have the announcement recently on the reduction of tariffs on coffee and tea. So those are the main bloodlines here of our mutual trade relationship.
Right. One of the biggest issues for African nations, and of course because we're talking Kenya, US, is the issue around value addition to product. That we see products coming out of African countries going and coming back and then being sold on this soil, where would you think, or where would you see that there would be support for African nations? And again, let's use Kenya as an example, because we also know, Ryan, that it is absolutely impossible to develop economically until and unless you are selling what you have manufactured for profit.
Yep.
Not possible. You won't be able to do it unless you're making and selling, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of the world's raw resources. But the problem has often been that we either don't add value to it and so we can't sell it, or that we have not put in the proper things in place to make sure that that can happen. But it seems as though from a disadvantaged point of view, that people will then take up the raw resource and then go and use it somewhere else. There are many examples of that. Gold that's coming out of the western part of the country, coffee, tea. I mean, take your pick.
Yeah.
So where would that support come? If truly there was support for this to happen, perhaps it would be then, shouldn't the support come in where the value can be added so that you can actually sell at a higher profit?
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and that is a part of what we're looking to do to kind of strengthen that, to not have it just be extraction based. You know, whether you're coffee, how do you create the relationship to do the processing, the roasting here? Where you're talking textile and apparels. Okay, how do you bring in U.S. cotton to create that added value, to have the bulk of that work done here, creating those jobs for Kenyans? You know, yesterday, the chargé d'affaires, Susan Burns, was just at the opening of the new Mars Wrigley plant. And a lot of those additions for that, flavorings, that type of stuff, is coming from the U.S. to come in here, so that manufacturing is done here, and it's creating those jobs within the country. And so that is, you know, in other projects, that is a key driver of this relationship. And then I think that is beyond just a transaction. You know, I think the way that we look at it as well is U.S. companies, I always say U.S. companies are some of our best diplomats, because they hire locally, they develop locally, they train locally, and they create those higher paying jobs. Whether we're talking about the tech sector, whether we're talking about like companies like Caterpillar that literally helped build this country. They've been here for over 100 years. Whether you're talking about the launch of Uber Safari, there are many times where riding alongside rhinos is part of the digital economy. And this is the only place that they're doing it. And it's because of that relationship, and because of the strength of the Kenyan economy, the Kenyan people, educated, driven, innovative. And that's where we're looking to how can we work better to help add that value here to create the jobs that the Kenyans are looking for.
You know, for a very long time, there has been conversations in the country on FDI, foreign direct investment in the country, and that would call into the government putting in place policies that would make that easy for these investments to come into the country. And one would just look at, like in the value addition that Ndu is talking about in resources that we have in the country, and one would look at what the government is doing. So the government is working to to put in place policies and invite investors into the country. You talk about tech, Microsoft is here. You talk about ILRI and investments into research in healthcare and livestock production and all that. Are we looking into these scaling up even further, just so we have more manufacturing plants into the country from American investors?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a part of the conversation. If you look at what took place in partnership with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on the margins of UNGA, it was how do you showcase what Kenya has to offer. There were a number of programs that AmCham and Can Invest put on the margins of UNGA, whether it's on apparel, whether it's on BPO, whether it's on the tech side, because I think that's an important angle as well, because the way, again, we look at Kenya as the hub and spoke model. You come to Kenya because you're going to want to then grow your business here in Kenya and then export to the region. And so that opportunity is there, and that's something that we continue to look for, and to work with Coca-Cola. There are 2 plants that are here. Again, Mars Wrigley, Del Monte. In addition to the Googles, Microsofts, Oracles, Cisco's, Meta, Ubers that are all here as well. And so it's such a diverse relationship that's not defined even by one sector. But you're looking at healthcare like GE Healthcare, Medtronic, and what they continue to do in the public and private healthcare system.
Do you think that the fields, the fields are level? Do you think that the playing fields are level? When we talk about trade relations or commercial relations between countries, especially one that is in the developed world and that one that is in the developing space, that can the playing fields be level? Should we even be having that conversation? Should one play the role of big brother that helps this other one come so that we always talk about having a seat at the table. But then one must say, are we even in the same room before we can be at the same table? And this relates to very many issues, Ryan, from debt to international loaning and lending, to what tax will look like, to what suggestions are being made in order for funds that are necessary for development on one side to then be given. Can the playing field be level? Is it possible that everybody can be having the same conversation as brothers around the table? Is that possible, or is it a pipe dream?
I mean, I think as it relates to the U.S.-Kenya relationship, it's 100% real.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that should they even be in the room, but I think Kenya should be at the table. I think that is why when you're looking at this administration and even on tariffs, why it's at the lowest of the low right now. And frankly, the effective rate will get lower with the tariffs being removed on coffee, tea, and a few other products. But I definitely think so, and I think the reason being is you have you want to create that business enabling environment that's going to bring U.S. companies here, because as I mentioned, they're creating those jobs, and that will help level that playing field overall. And so when you create that business enabling environment, that predictability that companies long for at the end of the day, and that's what Kenya does offer, and that's why you see the strength of AmCham. That's why you see the strength of U.S. Private sector here, because that's what Kenya offers them.
See, when you talk about development economies that do well, for investment to come, one thing is critical, and that is security. And U.S. is big on security, on how it's protecting its borders. We know what the U.S. is doing in ensuring that the country is safe. And when you look at that in the country, U.S. has helped Kenya with intelligence, as stated before. But then again, there has also been the aspect of geopolitics and global positions, and Africa needing a space and a seat at the Security Council. President William Ruto has pushed a lot to move and ensure that Africa has at least 2 seats, right? And with that, one would hope that developed nations, the U.S., would hold African countries to ensure that they have that seat. Is it about time that these are conversations that were held and that Africa has that seat to also have a say?
No, I mean, as it relates to, as you had said, the development of a country, the development of economy and a workforce, I think, Kenya is right in the mix, and that's just evident by U.S. by U.S. Precedents here, and obviously you have the geopolitics, but we're focused on what U.S. companies are bringing to Kenya, and that really is priority number one. And as a result of things like the Security Council, I would unfortunately I would refer to my political section colleagues. I'm the deals guy, I'm the tariffs guy, but I'll refer to those folks there and our folks at the U.S. mission to the UN that are here at that as they continue to navigate what that looks like in this political climate.
Do you think the financial architecture that does exist at the moment in terms of where African countries do exist, Kenya, for example, that it has been created or designed to make African countries not move pretty much, and that there is need to change that? And if that is a way to go, then how should both developed countries, multinational organizations, financial institutions, and African governments work together to ensure that it is structured such that both sides do win?
No, exactly. I think, on a lot of these topics here, especially as we're talking aid, we're talking about, debt. Yeah. We're talking about those long-term projects. I think the way of public-private partnerships is key. Public-private partnerships ensures that the private sector has a say in it and that they're creating projects that are viable, that are economically viable, and all the burden doesn't necessarily rely on the books of the government. And those are, I think, super important opportunities. And obviously, you have your big, large infrastructures. You have potential airport projects, rail projects, but you also have it in the healthcare space. GE, right after I arrived here at the end of July, GE Healthcare held a program with President Ruto for CT scanners. And those are done under a public-private partnership model. So the upfront cost isn't there, but it enables the public to have access to top-of-the-line technology when they go to a public hospital. And they don't necessarily have to go towards a private hospital for that in the rural areas. And that's key. And that creates that environment to ensure that people are getting the best care using the best technologies while making sure that it's not kind of a debt diplomacy type of approach.
I look at the ways in which the US developed from, when the first pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock. Yep. And all the way through towards the gold rush in the 40s. And then after that, when industrialization, even after the Great Depression and all of these things that happened, one of the things that the US also did to an extent was be insular and protectionist about local industry and making sure that resources that were available remained inside. We see that kind of the same thing is happening in the Trump administration with, again, the nationalism of things coming to bear. And that's how the US relates with everybody else. It's nationalist first. Do you think that folks on the other side of that relationship, Kenya in this case, should be nationalist first, protecting its industry, protecting its farmers, protecting its resources first before having a trade relationship? Or can those things be symbiotic?
I think, I'll leave it to the Ruto administration to figure out what that approach looks like when it comes to its farmers and local industry. But I think under the Trump administration, you have a way of kind of how do you create a new tariff framework, a new tariff framework that one does promote U.S. industry, but while also finding those partnerships that promote local industry as well. The U.S. economy is moving fast. The Kenyan economy is moving fast. But as the proverb goes, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. And that's why I think this opportunity is here for us to go fast and far together. And for example, like I just said, previously on the textile space. Okay. How do we help U.S. farmers with textile apparel to the U.S.? Okay, maybe we could bring in some opportunities that relates to U.S. cotton, and then that will also help the textile manufacturers here lower those tariff rates that companies are facing. And so I think there are opportunities to have that symbiotic relationship with one another while also ensuring that it's mutually beneficial and it's not just a one-sided relationship.
So we've looked at the extraction, which one would say the mining industry in the country, and with that FDI, foreign direct investment, something that is needed for this market pretty much to grow. So we're looking at the price of gold today, and it is doing very well. But you look at gold, Kenya just found its greatest deposits, and there have been many players coming in trying to get a piece of that. But then we look at how then developed countries like the US would come in and hold Kenyans' hands and ensure that these get to benefit locals and get to grow. Are we looking at different sectors that perhaps information that you could be having that entrepreneurs, big business from the US are looking into tapping into in the country?
I think so. Obviously, you have the mining sector, and there are a number of U.S. companies that continue to look into Kenya opportunities to partner with local communities to develop those mines. But also, Kenya's all about the big five.
Yeah.
For us at the Department of Commerce, we're looking at, okay, what are our big five opportunities to create those partnerships? You have energy, you have agriculture and ag tech. So ag tech, okay, how do we help create those better yields? How do we create a more sustainable environment for the farmers? You also have creative industries. That's been a big push so far. You have ICT. You can't look out. You can't look away from the ICT industry, and that is so cross-cutting overall. How do you provide better government services? Utilizing AI, utilizing cybersecurity frameworks. How do you create the jobs that Kenyans are looking for, utilizing artificial intelligence? And as part of that, how do you bring in that technology? Now, one of the most surprising things when I moved here just a few months ago was learning that Kenyans are one of the #1 users in the world of ChatGPT. That's incredible. And that just speaks to who Kenyans are and the Kenyan population of embracing those technologies to create startups, to boost their entrepreneurial dreams. And so we're trying to see how we could bring in that technology to do that. And how we can bring in that technology to bring better services, better programs, and more efficient programs, and more efficiencies for the Kenyan population.
Okay, so how do you see a future where, just looking at the last couple of weeks, there's been an intense, at least public expression of wanting Kenya to get, I don't like using the first world and second world anymore. Getting to the place where it will be developed. That's a conversation that's coming very clearly from the president of Kenya at the moment, and folks are being asked to latch onto that dream. How would you, in just thinking about how that relationship might then move towards that future aspiration, that certain things need to be done in the interim for that to happen? How would you envisage that? And where would you see the U.S. in that relationship whereby this dream, by hook or by crook, must then be realized?
Yeah, I mean, look, before Kenya, I was in Central America, in San Jose, Costa Rica. Before that, I was in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. And before that, I was in Singapore. And there are a lot of similarities of the role that Kenya plays here in East Africa as what you see in Singapore or Costa Rica and Central America from a safety, security, economic standpoint. And I think what U.S. companies look for is a sound business enabling environment that's founded on democracy and transparency. And I think those opportunities are there. If they weren't there, then we wouldn't have the presence of U.S. organizations that we do today. I think there are opportunities to continue the development of the country's infrastructure with U.S. and like-minded partners as well. Because how can we work across the scheme with our partners and our allies? And how can we do better to ensure that Kenya remains on this path of 5% plus GDP growth that it's been on for quite some time. That's also incredible in and of itself, the sustained GDP growth of the country. That's not something that you see globally as well.
Yeah, you've mentioned that for proper investment to be there, there has to be a basis of democracy that is really important and key. And we look at some of the biggest sectors in the country today. You talk about tech and how Kenyans consume tech. Yes, we're doing well. We're doing well, you know. And also just the innovation. You talk about M-Pesa today, and it's a global leader on finance. And you look at technology transfer and the need of that even being scaled higher in Kenya and in the continent. So how are we approaching that, just so we don't speak about the innovations that have existed before, but Kenya continues to scale forward and further moving forward, while noting that for that to happen, there is proper foundation of democracy. How do we balance that, and how do we make that work?
No, I mean, you have the foundation. The foundation is here. If the foundation wasn't here, you wouldn't have an M-Pesa. You have other countries, other markets clamoring to have an M-Pesa. I mean, it's incredible the work that M-Pesa does, and it opens up for all of us here and for the local community. And so I think it's as I said before, U.S. businesses are our best diplomats.
Yes.
U.S. companies will go to the government and say, okay, these are what we need, or this is the structure of an SEZ in order to create that business enabling environment, where Kenyans aren't necessarily trying to create the next Oracle or Meta or Cisco, but they're using those technologies and those platforms to create Kenya's next unicorn, to create Kenya's next M-Pesa, to grow those jobs here and to create that environment where Kenyans are able to get the jobs that they want to have.
I want to imagine a situation where so we see what happened decades ago happening today in terms of world dominance and looking at geopolitics of the day. It's very clear who, the powers that be are. Our relationships, when we look at trade relationships, true in form as trade relationships, or are they, battles between country to country for world dominance? We can't run away from that impression that plays on the minds of many people that, okay, is the US really interested in fostering trade with Kenya? Or is the US having a relationship with Kenya to then dominate the space and fight off what would be from the East, China?
No, the U.S. is committed to Kenya. I think I'll say that unequivocally. If you look at our trade relationship, both countries, for the U.S. is Kenya's number 2 export market, and the U.S. is Kenya's number 6 or 7 import market. So that equal relationship is there. It is not a one-sided transaction. About $1.5 billion of trade in 2024. And honestly, it's just a fraction of that created a surplus for the U.S. And so that relationship is equal. It is not a one-sided transaction. And that is what I think we pride ourselves on, is that it's not a transactional relationship, but it is one built on shared values. It is one built on creating opportunities for both countries. And that's just evident by the private sector here. And where it is not an extractive relationship, it is not a transaction, you buy this, I'll buy that. But that's why you have the presence of the private sector that we do. And that commitment is here. I know kind of the other elephant in the room, USAID.
Yes.
That's always the one, and I'm sure that might have been on your list.
It's coming.
So I'll just say right off the bat, as a respect to USAID, we are working, and by we, people much higher level than me, of what a new framework agreement looks like. The U.S. the largest donor in the healthcare industry, more than $7 billion. CDC's been here since 1979. So we're not going anywhere in the healthcare space. That commitment remains strong, and that commitment is going to be enduring. And so there's a new framework agreement that helps try to create, as you had said, how do you get Kenya to this being a developed market, in a self-sustaining market, and that is what this new framework agreement that our chargé is hoping to announce in the near future will outline. Right. It will outline that on the health. We're not abandoning Kenya. We're not abandoning the healthcare sector, but we're here to find a new framework to partner with the government to create private sector-led initiatives and modernization as well, but also to ensure that things continue to flow that will save the lives of Kenyans.
Whereas I push and insist on autocracy when it comes to how nations develop, that you must then be able to, at the very least, take care of your sick. Where I do think that self-dependence then builds towards sovereignty. It does. That you do not then rely on external party for funds to then take care of your nation's sick. I do also, I wonder what then, if the decision to pull back on these funds was taken with other nations in mind or the U.S. in mind?
I think the decision was more to kind of restructure the use of funds and to make sure that they're being used in the most effective manner, and to make sure that those programs are continuing. We've never had, despite what might have been out there hasn't been a moment where there's been vaccinations that are missing. Those have continued. Our CDC colleagues, we sit right next to them every day here at the embassy. They are here. They are committed. And I think as part of this framework, the goal is how do we use this to help kind of foster the next era of the relationship.
Right.
And then again, it's not going anywhere by any means, but how do we get to that next level that I think we all know Kenya can do? And Kenya can get to.
Make a decision if it can.
Yeah.
Right.
So we look at, for us to get investment into the country, FDI and all that, there are things that we have to fix in the country. And one of those would be to deal on wastage in the country. One would talk about corruption in the country. But if you just extrapolate that and look at it in a bigger picture, how do these things affect investment into the country? Because you look at what an investor would want to put in the country and fear that would not be spent in the right way. So in terms of that being one of the big ticket items in terms of investment that Kenya attracts, how crucial is it for us to look inward and fix that?
I think as countries look to grow their investment and they look to grow their FDI, what companies look for is predictability. They look for predictability. Predictability from a government-to-government standpoint, even as administrations change. Predictability from a tax structure standpoint as well. Predictability from a sourcing structure as well. So it really comes down to predictability. And that's what companies, and that's honestly why I think over the last decades, why Kenya's been so successful, because they've offered that predictability that maybe you don't see in other markets in the region. And that's what it comes down to. And they've done a good job, but everyone can always do better. And that I think is that next step that we continue to engage with the government of Kenya is how to make sure that our company, that the U.S. industry sees Kenya as a prime opportunity to grow their business in the country, but in the region, and how we can help create that environment that'll do so.
So, Ryan, nothing speaks fantastic relations like when your number 2 man in the country then would come and visit another country.
For sure.
But J.D. Vance has reneged on a visit to Kenya twice now. Maybe reneged is not the right word, but has cancelled his plans to visit Kenya twice now. Is there a reason for that, the true reason, as opposed to busy schedules or other things?
No, I mean, a few weeks back, the President Trump had announced that the U.S. was not going to participate in G20 in South Africa, and that was, as you do these trips, that was kind of the anchor trip. Okay, while I'm in South Africa, let's go to Kenya as well. And unfortunately, it did not work out, this time around. But I don't believe that's a indication of the relationship. There have been multiple engagements, including most recently on the margins of UNGA, between President Ruto and Secretary Rubio. And I think those are indicative of the importance that the government and this administration places on Kenya as a leader, not only in the region, but on the continent as well.
Does relationship and investment by China to the continent, and especially in Kenya, affect in any way the relationship between Kenya and the U.S. has?
I don't think so. I mean, we focus on the bilateral aspect. We don't worry about necessarily what other countries are doing. We focus on ourselves and how we can foster a stronger economic relationship with Kenya and the government of Kenya. Whether that is on the trade front, whether that is on the development front, that is our goal. Is how do we bring the best technology, into Kenya? How do we bring the best projects to the Kenyans? And how do we create that mutually beneficial relationship so it's not one-sided, whether it's on trade or on development? But we are developing the local workforce. We're helping build skills. We're helping kind of create those jobs.
Right. So I want to go back to the G20 just a minute. That we know what it does is that there are groups of countries who are coming together to discuss development, to discuss economies, to discuss world trade and all of this. Why would the US not want to attend that?
You'd have to ask our team in South Africa on that one, or back in Washington, D.C. As for me, I'm focusing on how we can bring in more U.S. government support, more U.S. government partnership for the Kenyans.
Okay. So looking at, again, coming back to future and then looking into relationships with Kenya going forward, what would be the key sectors? I mean, we've talked about trade, obviously, but what are key sectors that there would be this buddying up on moving into the future? Whether you look at 2055, which is another year that has then been put out there in terms of the Development Index agenda for Kenya, what are some areas whereby you see this partnership really living through?
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned, our big five, ICT, the digital economy. How do you leverage ICT opportunities for a country and a workforce and a young population that knows how to leverage it, and how do we create those opportunities to leverage it for good? Energy. How do we capitalize on the fact that Kenya's energy grid is 90% renewable energy?
Yes.
How do we capitalize that? How do we make that better? How do we help with the transmission of that to make sure that energy is getting to the right places and the places that need it the most? But that same energy is needed on the ICT sector. You want to bring in data centers and AI, we got to make sure that the energy is there as well. Ag tech, the backbone of the economy. The historical backbone of the economy, the agriculture sector.
Yeah.
And when we say ag tech, how do we create those, bring in the technology to conserve water with respect to irrigation systems, provide those higher yields? Healthcare, as I had mentioned, how do we make sure that we're continuing forward and taking care of the Kenyan population and making sure that in the public and private sector hospitals, they have access to the health care, but more importantly, the technology that we know that are going to be provide the best outcomes. And then infrastructure. Every country can use some partnership on infrastructure. So the Nairobi-Mombasa Expressway. Airport developments. How can we bring in the U.S. companies under public-private partnerships on the infrastructure side of the house? Whether it's on technical assistance, whether that's on feasibility studies, whether that is on pilot projects. Those are just some of the tools that are out there that probably don't get talked up enough, that the U.S. government continues to engage with. To offer the public and private sector.
Yeah. If you look at the ICT sector in the country, the other day we had a discussion on how Kenya needs to add more power for us to be able to host our data centers. And with that, if you combine those two, then there is need for technology to be employed. And you look at the sun that we have, renewable energy, and one would say we're lagging behind because we're not tapping into that. And this then would speak to my earlier conversation and my earlier question on transfer of technology. Are we looking at solar plants coming into the country with this technology transferred to Kenyans for posterity, so that once the technology is here, Kenyans are able to move further and even grow and develop themselves. So we talk about ICT, fine, but are we looking at technology transfer as being part and parcel of the long-term package?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I think that feeds back into mutually beneficial relationships. And that's what will make this successful. On the energy side, you have geothermal.
Yeah.
You have your solar. You have a number of different opportunities, but also you have your battery storage. That's super important as well, to make sure you have that battery backup and that battery storage to ensure at certain times the power stays on. And that's kind of what companies look towards. And as technology transfer, I think that's what some of the ICT companies here are already doing. They're working, they're training, they're upskilling, reskilling as well. And so all that is in place to ensure that remains there.
Right.
You know, you look at tourism as part of the economy and the country, and U.S. Citizens visit the country in droves, in numbers, you know. And one would say that I, as Aseto, maybe one of the things I want to go enjoy is the snow. But movement and
I'm here for a reason.
you know, but one would say that when it comes now to immigration policies, it's a little bit difficult for one to go to the U.S. as compared to when a U.S. citizen is coming to the country. Are we having discussions on making it easier, movement of people, Kenyans from Kenya to the U.S., even exchange of ideas, business, study, and stay?
Yeah, I mean, tourism is huge. Those people-to-people ties, I think, are what really makes this relationship as strong as it is. And the way to do that is through studies, through business exchanges, and through education. And so we're committed to that. I don't know if I would recommend going to, towards the end of November, beginning of December, dealing with the snow when you have this beautiful weather here. But it's super important. And so that's where, when we're talking about visas, we're talking about immigration, how do you obtain those visas? I know that's always kind of one of the million-dollar questions. We always recommend making sure that you're working with trusted sources, making sure you're utilizing the U.S. State Department website. I'll say here, the wait times are much shorter than my previous post in Central America, where some places in Latin America you might need to wait a year plus for a visa appointment. At least in my time when I was there. Here, those opportunities are there, and we encourage folks to go to the U.S. I think it's great the direct flight, the daily direct flight between the U.S. Between New York City and Nairobi, and hopefully that's something that we are able to continue growing. Both U.S. Folks coming to Kenya to understand the culture, to understand the significance and the warmness of the people. In fact, random story I was telling Lillian on the way here. My first trip here was actually about 32 years ago with my family. My mom read the book Daisy the Rothschild Giraffe, all about the creation of Giraffe Manor. She read that book, and then she wrote a snail mail letter back in the late 80s, early 90s to Giraffe Manor. They wrote back and forth, and that was kind of the impetus. And so in that's such an impactful moment on me as a person that probably contributed to my drive to the public sector to serve.
So is it easier for Kenyans to get visas to go to the US? It would seem as though it's easier for Americans to get visas to come to Kenya than it is for Kenyans to get visas to go to the US for whatever, education, a short trip, a job. Is it?
Yeah, no, it's a process. It's a process that our consular section continues to work through every day with the Kenyan population, and I'll defer to them on what those numbers are. But we continue to work with the private sector on there are trainings that are coming back to the U.S. with the education side of the house. We work with Education USA, who just hosted a massive education fair with I think about 15 or so U.S. universities to showcase what the U.S. has to offer, and so that's something that we continue to work with. It's quite a dynamic relationship.
So is it easier?
That's honestly, I'll defer to you to our consular section and to what those numbers are looking like.
Yeah. Do you have information on that? So I saw there is a proposal that has been tabled in the U.S. Congress on a DV lottery, also just on immigration and visas, and one would say. One would ask the question, why cancel the program that has seen many access U.S. legally? So why cancel it?
I don't know enough on that part. As you know, I'm the trade guy, the trade and investment guy. But happy to ping my colleagues on that.
How does the future look like in terms of Kenya-U.S. Trade in the years to come? Say the next 5 years. How do we look at? Now we're talking about $1.5 billion dollars in terms of trade as per 2024. But in the next 5 years, what's the projection like from where you sit?
I think it's looking great, and I think it's a spirit of Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for in this relationship. That's truly a mutually beneficial relationship. I think there's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for improvement, as there is in any relationship, whether it's personal or business. But the outcomes are there, and the opportunities are there, and I think we remain committed to Kenya and to seeing a prosperous, safe, secure Kenya that is creating opportunities for Kenyan citizens in partnership with the U.S. And strengthening that bilateral relationship.
Okay. Well, it will be interesting to see how, this relationship does develop, over time, and then just being able to see what both sides would then be able to benefit. You have come this morning with a turkey. What's the significance of this bird for Thanksgiving, by the way?
Thanksgiving goes all the way back to the Pilgrims. And it was a celebration of the first successful harvest for the Pilgrims in a celebration with the Native Americans. Officially became a holiday during the Civil War of all times as an opportunity to give thanks in 1863 by President Lincoln. And, it is, to me, the turkey and Thanksgiving is just an opportunity to come together. It's not about presents. It's not about gifts. It doesn't create that extra stress that we all get. It is just about giving thanks for one another. It's the reason why it is the number one travel day in America is around Thanksgiving. And it creates madness in the airports or on the roads. You become a 995 warrior on the East Coast. But it's about giving thanks. It's about sharing. And it's about sharing that, looking back on the past year of what we have to be grateful for and what we're looking forward to in the future. Kind of back on your last question, Dennis.
Why the turkey?
It has just been a symbol. It's been a symbol of Thanksgiving. You have the Macy's Day Parade. It doesn't end until you have the turkey come down Fifth Avenue and Santa come down Fifth Avenue, which then kicks off the Christmas season. It is just a symbol of Thanksgiving and of sharing.
That's fantastic. So our head of the broadcast is here. Jacinta is here this morning as well, and we're going to be able to carve that with you. So thank you for bringing that for us to be able to share in the true spirit of appreciation and Thanksgiving. So thank you, Ryan Hollowell, for doing that with us this morning. So you will do the honors, of course, carving this big bird. and then we'll see, it's great to then be able to do that and have that with you. So I guess we'll have an opportunity to be able to cut it up and enjoy. What else is this that you have here?
So there's also a pecan pie. Obviously, you also have the fixings there, some cranberry sauce, some gravy. And I know, we also have other dishes that we've brought that are traditional, like your stuffing and your mashed potatoes, that are all just part of the traditional U.S. Thanksgiving meals.
Okay, that's great. So, I guess you'll do the honors. So we'll allow you to do that. The camera will get you at some point and then being able to do that. So, over to you. So, of course, there are the two flags that have now been removed from their resting place. But okay.
I don't want to cut them.
No, at least don't cut up the flags. That would not be a...
that would be on the next plate home, probably.
Right.
We have open that up.
So that's great to see. And so, of course, from all the movies that we watch and things that we see, it takes many hours to roast this thing.
It does.
So, and then, of course, trying to get... An hour per pound. All right.
So it is a beautiful bird.
And there you go.
That, as you get older, you learn how to kind of...
You learn how to do this. You've done this every year of your life since it was. So we would hope that by now you've been able to get that, done and dusted.
Well, we were just at the AmCham Thanksgiving on Friday. And so we had that opportunity there to carve that for our table. And it was wonderful to be able to share that opportunity with folks.
That's great to see. So we're going to, of course, continue with that. We want to thank you so much for then being able to have this turkey carving with us, even as we discuss U.S.-Kenya relations, and looking forward to the future of that. So thank you for doing that. Ryan Hollowell for joining us this morning, who is the commercial counselor at the U.S. Embassy, Kenya. And as we continue into those Thanksgiving celebrations, it's great to then be able to do that with you and look forward to relations in the future between Kenya and the US. Thank you for keeping it Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday. Conversations continue. Have a great rest of the day. It's 10 o'clock. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Detectives are investigating the murder of a man whose body was found beside a river in the Kenol area, Mungai County. The body had injuries in the heart to the head. Police said he lay in a pool of blood with his hands tied from behind and his head disfigured. He had been hit with a blunt object. The body was moved to the mortuary pending an identification pending identification and autopsy. Elsewhere in Migori County, police are investigating an incident where the dismembered body parts of a man were found in a bush. The man is suspected to have been killed and his body abandoned in the bush before being eaten up by animals. A diplomatic row has erupted between Tanzania and the European Union over a planned EU